Parallel world, blue planet, Chun, it's rent day. Transfer the money to my bank account tomorrow. At the sound of the landlady's voice over the phone, Chunze instantly pictured her plump, bloated face. Sister Hong, orders have been drying up lately, and my electric scooter broke down for good a couple days ago. Could you cut me a little slack? The line was noisy in the background. It sounded like she was playing mahjong, the clatter of tiles mixing with her impatient tone. Chun, don't play the poor mouth with me. If you can't pay, move out straight away. This apartment won't sit empty for long. That's not what I mean. I definitely want to keep renting this place. Give me a week, max a week, I promise. Sister Hong cut him off mid-sentence. Enough, enough, enough. I can't wait that long. 3 days tops. Or pack up your junk and get out. A dead dial tone buzzed in his ear immediately after. She'd hung up. Ugh, even a hero gets brought down by a lack of cash. Chunze sighed heavily. Looking back, just 2 years prior, Chunze had been full of fire and ambition. Back then, he'd teamed up with his college roommates to launch a company, united by lofty dreams. Working side by side, they'd watched their business thrive and expand rapidly. But human hearts were unpredictable, and fate's twist struck without warning. Chunze never imagined he'd misjudge those he'd called brothers. The pals who'd sworn lifelong camaraderie with him had secretly colluded with outsiders to weave an elaborate trap. In a meticulously plotted scheme, corporate assets were embezzled, operations sabotaged, and the firm crumbled like a collapsing skyscraper. Worse still, he was saddled with crippling debt, landing him in this miserable predicament. Those heartless bastards, I'll settle this score with them sooner or later. Chunze clenched his fists, seething with the urge to tear those scumbags limb from limb right then and there. Yet at this moment, he could barely put food on the table. Revenge was nothing but a distant fantasy. I'd better head out and hustle more deliveries. He pulled on his bright yellow delivery uniform and prepared to leave, when a frigid mechanical voice boomed inside his head. Data scan complete. Global population threshold reached. Universal Fortress survival commences now. What the hell? Are aliens invading? Before Chunze could process the shock, the mechanical voice spoke again. Welcome to Universal Fortress survival game. This game belongs to all humanity, and it is your chance to ascend to godhood. Listen closely to the rules below. Every player may select one property as their starting fortress. It can be any real estate registered under your name, or you may opt for a random assignment from the system. Every fortress contains a fortress core, its absolute heart. If the core is destroyed, the entire fortress will collapse completely. Each night, you will face attacks from natural disasters, man-made catastrophes, zombie hordes, and other monsters. Successfully fending off assaults grants resources and rewards to upgrade your fortress and boost your personal stats. Special events will activate periodically. Completing these events earns rare items or powerful abilities, yet they carry extreme danger. Prioritize your safety at all times. The world outside your fortress is lethal, yet rich with resources. Stronger survivors may venture out to explore. New player protection period active now, expires in 3 days, after which additional zones will unlock. To view full game content, silently recite system panel in your mind. Warning: in-game death equals permanent real death. Do not harbor any false hope of survival. Wishing everyone a prosperous year of the horse, good fortune, and safe evacuation. Chunze absorbed every word, his facial muscles twitching in disbelief. Universal Fortress survival? And what kind of garbage sign-off is safe evacuation? He rushed to the window and stared out. Every person on the street stood frozen, jaws hanging wide enough to fit a fist. They'd all heard the same voice. Is this all really happening? The mechanical voice echoed in his mind once more. Survivor Chunze, no registered real estate detected under your identity. Accept random fortress assignment. 10 seconds to choose. Failure to respond equals immediate erasure. Countdown begins. 10, 9, 8. Are you kidding me? Rushing me like you're clocking out for the day? Chunze swore under his breath. Everything had unfolded far too fast for him to weigh the pros and cons of a random fortress. But refusal meant instant death. He gritted his teeth and shouted at thin air. I choose the random fortress. Ding. Selection confirmed. Random fortress roll initiating. As the voice faded, a giant spinning wheel materialized in his consciousness, covered in countless illustrations. High-rise apartments, rural cottages, underground bunkers, and bizarre, twisted structures of all shapes. The wheel spun at blurring speed, and Chunze's heart hammered in his throat. This single spin would decide his life or death within this uncanny game. After more than 10 seconds, the wheel slowed to a halt, its pointer landing on a gray cylindrical structure. It stood roughly 3 to 4 stories tall, its outer wall pockmarked with countless craters and indentations. Holy crap, this is a Japanese World War II blockhouse. Ding. Congratulations, survivor. Your random roll rewarded you with a World War II blockhouse as your starting fortress. You have acquired the SSS tier talent, Plunder. Talent, Plunder. You may seize the fortress core talents of other survivors, breaking the restriction of only one active talent. Each fortress level unlocks one empty talent slot. SSS tier. Chun-Ze's eyes bulged, utterly unable to believe his luck. Even without knowing the full talent ranking system of this doomsday survival game, anyone could tell what that glowing golden triple S symbolized. I hit the jackpot? Ha ha ha. His voice trembled with unrestrained excitement as he laughed out loud. Boom. A violent tremor shook the ground beneath his feet, growing stronger by the second. Worse still, the vibration rippled through his very consciousness, leaving his head spinning and nauseous. Chun-Ze squeezed his eyes shut, fighting back waves of sickness to stay conscious. He lost track of how many seconds passed, 10, 20, or longer, before the shaking finally ceased. He rubbed his throbbing temples and slowly opened his eyes. What the hell just happened? Where am I now? The dusty, dim hallway of his rental apartment was gone, replaced by a spacious, empty chamber. Slanted sunlight streamed down from above, casting dappled shadows across the floor. Chun-Ze squinted to adjust to the brightness and realized he stood inside the cylindrical structure. This must be the World War II blockhouse I rolled randomly. He muttered to himself as he scanned his surroundings. The blockhouse interior was compact, around 20 to 30 square meters. Its walls were lined with oversized gray bricks. Even with chunks of mortar crumbled away, the structure looked impenetrable. There was only one entrance, sealed tight behind a massive iron gate. A dozen firing slits lined the surrounding walls, letting faint streaks of daylight filter in to keep the chamber from total darkness. Chun-Ze walked to the iron door and shoved hard. It did not budge an inch. He still had no full grasp of what this fortress survival game entailed. Yet one truth was certain: staying safe came first. Leaning closer to examine the door, he gasped at its thickness, nearly 30 centimeters, solid metal. Damn, those Japanese invaders spared no materials building these things. This gate could probably tank multiple rocket blasts. He climbed the narrow stone staircase in the corner, ascending upward. The blockhouse had 4 floors, all laid out identically, each level shrinking slightly in size as he climbed higher. The first 3 floors were completely bare, filled only with dust and tangled cobwebs in the corners. No usable supplies anywhere. Disappointment weighed on Chun-Ze's heart. The system had made it clear monsters would attack after dark, and no matter how sturdy the blockhouse was, without food, water, or weapons, he was just a sitting duck. He kept climbing until he reached the 4th floor. The moment he lifted his gaze, he froze, his whole body shaking violently with elation. No way, there's actually artillery in this blockhouse. Resting quietly in one corner stood a Type 92 infantry gun over half a meter tall, with a pile of dust-covered artillery shells stacked beside it. Chun-Ze swallowed hard and jogged over. Eager with delight, he knelt down and brushed dust gently off the gun barrel, handling it as if it were an irreplaceable treasure. Hell yeah, with this cannon, what do I have to fear from those stupid monsters? One shot, and they'll all be blown to ash. Chun-Ze's earlier despair and destitution vanished entirely, replaced by soaring confidence. 1, 2, 3, 10 shells in total. Though he'd never fired artillery before, he'd watched countless war films about resisting Japanese occupation, vividly imagining fireballs tearing through hordes of monsters. Ha, Universal Fortress survival game. This is perfect. He planted his hands on his hips and laughed unrestrainedly. Debt, rent, all of it could rot. In this survival game, he was the protagonist. Open system panel. The thought had barely crossed his mind when a pale blue translucent screen materialized in his head, displaying 3 tabs: personal stats, regional chat, trade system. Chun-Ze focused on personal stats and tapped to open it. Survivor, Chun-Ze. Level, 1, strength, 8 peak human limit equals 10. Agility, 7 peak human limit equals 10. Constitution, 8 peak human limit equals 10. Active talents, none. Evaluation, F. Mediocre, utterly average baseline stats. Upgrade requirement. All base stats reach 20 plus 1 E-tier beast core of any attribute. The system's lukewarm assessment aside, Chun-Ze was fairly satisfied. 6 months of rain or shine delivery runs had honed his 3 core attributes. He might not be superhuman, but he was far hardier than average office workers. He scrolled further to pull up his fortress stats panel. Survival Fortress, World War II Blockhouse. Level 1. Defense Value. 5 higher defense reduces incoming damage during attacks. Durability, 98/100. Defensive armaments, 1 times Type 92 infantry gun, 10 artillery shells, 5 times Type 38 rifles, 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Food stores, none. Evaluation, C tier. A solid doomsday fortress, with an exceptionally powerful signature talent. Upgrade requirement, 100 stone units, 100 lumber units, 100 steel units, 1 tier 2 upgrade blueprint. The flood of information overwhelmed Chunze for a moment. As an avid online gamer, he quickly grasped the meaning of fortress defense and durability values. Yet where was the fortress core, and where were the Type 38 rifles? He hadn't spotted them yet. His gaze swept the 4th floor chamber, and he soon spotted 5 long wooden objects discarded in a corner. Chunze bent down and picked one up. What he'd mistaken for firewood turned out to be rifles. For men born and raised in this nation, firearms, especially rifles, held an unmatched allure. He'd grown up watching anti-Japanese war dramas, harboring a quiet fascination for all types of firearms. Thrilled, he tore off the oil paper wrapping and lifted the rifle to examine it closely. The gun stretched over a meter long, its wooden stock polished with fine grain, untouched by rust thanks to the protective oil paper. A gleaming bayonet fixed beneath the muzzle, its sharp blade glinting cold and menacing. Now this is a man's dream come true. Chunze could no longer contain his excitement. He grabbed a handful of brass bullets from the ammo crate. He clumsily fed 5 rounds into the internal magazine, the crisp clink of metal echoing loudly through the silent blockhouse. Once loaded, he pulled the bolt back with a sharp click, chambering the first bullet. Peering out through a firing slit, Chunze scanned for targets, catching his first full view of this bizarre fortress survival world. The towering skyscrapers he'd known were gone, replaced by a desolate, ruined wasteland. The ground lay charred black as if seared by relentless heat, devoid of any greenery or life. Dozens of small buildings dotted the landscape 40 to 50 meters away. Upon closer inspection, they were all modern residential structures, complete with security steel doors and plastic-framed windows. Some still retained Red Spring Festival paper cuttings stuck to the glass. It looked as if each house had been torn out of its original high-rise and placed at equal distances apart across the barren plain. Chunze drew a deep breath, then froze in shock when he glanced upward to see 2 suns hanging low in the sky. Wait a minute, does that mean I'm no longer on Earth? Lost in his swirling thoughts, he heard a faint creak from the nearest residential building. Creak. Chunze tensed instantly, gripping the rifle tight and aiming the barrel at the cracked doorway. The door only gaped open a narrow slit, and he could make out a figure peering cautiously out from inside. After a moment, the person seemed to detect no immediate danger and dared to poke their head fully outside. The man stood around 165 centimeters tall, with a stout frame and a shiny bald crown. Chunze's eyes widened the second he recognized his face. Hey, that's the guy who lives next door to me. What's his name again? Yang Wei. Chunze had rarely interacted with his neighbors, yet Yang Wei's wife stood out. Young, strikingly beautiful, so mismatched with her portly, bald husband that passers-by often mistook them for father and daughter whenever they left the apartment complex, her always dressed in flashy, fashionable outfits. Are all our starting fortresses placed according to our original residential locations? Chunze frowned and continued watching below. Yang Wei scanned his surroundings warily, then flinched backward the moment he spotted the towering blockhouse, clearly terrified. Good God, what is that huge structure? A blockhouse? Yang Wei gaped, unable to tear his eyes away. Is that another survivor's fortress? Compared to that massive tower, my tiny apartment feels worthless. The gap between us is insane. In mere seconds, envy and jealousy surged through Yang Wei's mind. His line of sight could not make out Chunze hidden behind the firing slit, yet he sensed someone watching him from above. Hey brother up there, are you a survivor too? Yang Wei shouted at the top of his lungs. His yell rippled across the wasteland like a bomb hitting still water. From his elevated vantage point, Chunze watched 7 or 8 nearby buildings stir with movement. Familiar faces peeked out from windows. Bolder residents cracked their doors open to stare toward the blockhouse. They spotted Yang Wei and the imposing tower, and once they confirmed no immediate threat, people trickled out of their homes and began walking toward the blockhouse. Chunze said nothing, merely standing in the shadow behind the firing slit to observe the crowd. He recognized several faces down below: Lei Daong, the complex security captain; Hua Changjung, the property manager; and unexpectedly, Sister Hong, his landlady. Humans were herd creatures. Faced with unseen, lethal danger, they instinctively craved the safety of a crowd. More people heard the commotion and converged around the blockhouse, swelling the group to over 20 survivors. Neighbors, is this some kind of supernatural event? A 20-something young man asked. At this point, how can you still doubt it? I think we've all been pulled off Earth. Another man gestured up at the twin suns overhead. I just wonder how strong those monsters the system warned about are. Will our regular apartments even hold against them? A heavy silence fell over the crowd. After a long pause, property manager Gua Changjung broke the quiet first. In his 40s, Gua had ties to local underground gangs back in the day, using his connections to land the property manager position for Jinxiu Longwan residential complex. He folded his arms over his chest, narrowed his eyes, and swept a gaze across the assembled crowd. Everyone, listen to me. All heads snapped toward Gua Changjung, their expressions a mix of fear and desperate hope. Gua cleared his throat and spoke again. I think every human on Earth has been dragged into this universal fortress survival game. The system made it clear, monsters will attack every single night. He paused, his tone grave. We have to stick together if we want to stay alive. I had to admit, Gua Changjung was quite the figure. The all-people fortress survival had barely begun, yet the man already carried the air of a leader. Shenzhe made no rush to reveal himself down below. He wanted to see exactly what Manager Gua was plotting. Though they all faced the same crisis now, Shenzhe had endured betrayal in the business world and knew full well how unpredictable human hearts could be. At this life or death juncture, no one could tell what dark thoughts lingered hidden in another's mind. Manager Gua, time's running short. Spit out whatever plan you've got. Darkness is almost upon us. The one who spoke was Hong Jia, Shenzhe's landlady. Exactly. Cut the rambling and get to the point. A stout young man chimed in to echo her. Gua Changjing's expression darkened, and he shot the youth a sharp glare, yet he forced down his irritation. Everyone, calm yourselves. Let me ask you all one question first. Do you truly believe we can fend off the monster assault tonight holed up in our separate homes? Gua Changjing's gaze swept slowly across every face, his tone grave. The crowd fell silent, their eyes filled with worry and uncertainty. After a moment, a middle-aged man spoke up. Manager Gua, to be honest, my fortress talent is grade D, which boosts defensive stats. But my house has several huge windows. Even if the walls and security door hold against the monsters, those windows are a fatal weakness. I don't think I'll survive. Once he finished speaking, everyone frowned and fell into thought. Several among them possessed higher-grade talents, yet no one knew just how powerful the unknown monsters would be. Who could guarantee their own home would stand firm? I take it none of us have absolute certainty. Manager Gua interjected at just the right moment. If that's the case, why don't we band together to resist the monster attacks side by side? His words sparked an immediate buzz among the crowd. Join forces? But where would we all live? What about our original houses? Right? I spent over $1 million on my place, and I still owe more than $400,000 on the mortgage. Are you daft? This is the end of the world. Who's going to come collect your mortgage payments? If we abandon our homes, once the monsters destroy them, we'll be left homeless, relying on others forever. It was that same heavy-set young man who voiced dissent, his hand drifting unconsciously to his chest, as if clutching something precious there. If that's how it's going to be, I'm sitting this out. With that, the stout boy turned to leave. No fool among them missed the weight of his words. Band together to fight monsters? Even if they survived, wouldn't they become subordinates, forced to kowtow to whoever owned the fortress? If the fortress lord took offense someday, they could be expelled instantly through the fortress heart. Shenzhe let out a cold chuckle from his vantage point. That old fox Gua is shrewd as they come. Under the banner of unity, he's just trying to seize control of the situation. It was only when he'd seen the stout youth's gesture that he'd noticed it himself. Somewhere along the way, a necklace had appeared around his neck, strung with a translucent gem the size of a pigeon's egg, shimmering brightly. He channeled his consciousness into the stone and instantly understood. This gem was the fortress heart. Whoever held it owned the fortress, with full authority to cast out anyone inside at will. Lu Mao, are you deliberately stirring up trouble? Manager Gua hasn't even finished speaking, and you're already disrupting everything. Lei Daong, the security captain, blinked and jabbed a finger at the stout boy's nose, looking ready to throw a punch at any second. Gua Changjung held up a hand to calm Lei Daong, then fixed a mild gaze on Lu Mao. Xiao Lu, I know you have reservations, we all do. But if we don't stand united at this critical moment, we've got no hope of surviving. His speech was airtight. If Lu Mao walked away now, everyone would brand him a saboteur of their unity. All eyes locked onto him, and Lu Mao spoke up. Don't try to guilt-trip me, Lao Gua. I'm fine with us banding together, but we need a fortress big enough for everyone, and I get to hold the fortress heart. Guo Changzheng did not grow angry, only smiled faintly. Naturally, if we're all surviving together as one, everyone gets a turn holding the fortress heart. We'll pass it around, so each of us gets to be the fortress lord. Most of the crowd nodded in agreement at his words. Only a handful frowned, lost in thought. It made sense, just take turns with the fortress heart. If they were all in this together, they had to trust one another. It sounded like a perfect solution. From atop the watchtower, Chunzhe let out a scoff. Guo Changzheng was a master manipulator. His proposal sounded fair on the surface, yet it hid malicious intent beneath. Leaving aside the endless chaos rotating ownership of the heart would create, he could easily leverage his influence to seize permanent control at any point. By then, everyone would already be trapped with him, stripped of their own homes, helpless lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Chunzhe watched the crowd's decision with nothing but detached amusement. There was no way he'd ally himself with these people. Does everyone approve of my plan? Guo Changzheng scanned the surrounding crowd, making no rush to continue speaking. Hong Jie, ever the impatient sort, cut right to the chase. Sounds good to me. But whose fortress are we moving into? Guo Changzheng smiled, tilted his chin slightly, and nodded toward the watchtower. There's a ready-made one right there. Every head turned to follow his gesture, their gazes landing on the distant stone watchtower. Yang Wei was the first to voice approval. Brilliant. That tower looks rock solid. If we move inside, those monsters will never break through. Manager Gua thinks of everything. It's 4 or 5 stories high, easily enough space for dozens of us. Perfect choice. Lei Daong, the security captain, seconded him. Somewhere along the way, 2 or 3 young men had gathered beside him, former members of the security detail who'd rushed over at the commotion. Excitement swept through the crowd, their eyes shining with desperate hope. Lao Gua, is this watchtower yours? How can you guarantee the person inside will let us all in? Lu Mao's question doused their high spirits like a bucket of cold water. This time, Guo Changzheng wasted no more teasing. He strode straight toward the watchtower. Brother inside the tower, I'm sure you heard everything we discussed. At this time of crisis, we have no choice but to unite. These are all your neighbors. You wouldn't want to watch us get torn apart by monsters, would you? Chunzhe had originally planned to ignore them entirely, but Guo Changzheng's words left him half amused, half enraged. He decided to stop hiding in the shadows, stepping to the observation slit to stare down at the crowd, his voice icy cold. Manager Gua's plan is quite clever, but what happens to you lot means nothing to me. Chunzhe's sudden declaration seized every person's attention. Every single head shot upward, staring at the young figure framed in the observation window. Xiao Chen, is that really you? Hong Jie, the landlady, recognized him first, her face twisted with disbelief as if she'd seen a ghost. Others might not know Chunzhe's background, but Hong Jie knew full well he was just a delivery rider. She never could have imagined this towering watchtower belonged to him. Shock quickly melted into an overly sweet grin spreading across Hong Jie's face. Well, I'll be. This watchtower's yours, Xiao Chen? That makes everything simple. Come everyone, meet Xiao Chen. He's rented a place for me for ages. We're practically family. He's such a kind boy, he'll definitely take us all in. Hong Jie gestured for the crowd to advance toward the tower, acting as if she owned the place herself. Chunzhe stared, caught between laughter and frustration. Lady, have you any sense? Just days ago you threatened to evict me for delaying rent by a few days, and now we're practically family. Go to hell. Before Chunzhe could reply, Manager Gua jumped in to echo Hong Jie. Huh. Never guessed this tower belonged to Brother Chunzhe. Perfect news. Everyone hurry back to grab your belongings. We're moving in right away. I'm an easy man, Brother Chunzhe. My wife and I will take the 4th floor. Hot or cold, we don't mind. Yang Wei piped up. His comments stirred instant discontent among those nearby. Everyone knew the higher floors would be far safer once the monsters struck that night. They all wanted to claim the top levels for themselves. Hold on. Lao Yang, why do you get the highest floor? Exactly. I suffer from neurasthenia. The basement'll be far too noisy. I need an upper floor. Cut the nonsense. I've got 3 kids. We're taking the top floor. Shouting erupted as they all argued, each fighting to claim the safest spot for their own family. Watching the chaotic brawl, Chunzhe lost the last shred of his patience. He let out a cold laugh and spoke sharply. Are all of you out of your minds? When did I ever agree to let any of you inside? Get the hell out of here. Silence crashed over the crowd for a split second, every person frozen dumbfounded. Then chaos exploded anew. An elderly woman with snow-white hair pushed through the throng. pointing a trembling finger at Chunze. Young man, how can you say such a thing? We're all from the same complex. Now that disaster's fallen on us, why won't you lend your neighbors a hand? Must you be so stingy, right? If we all stick together, you'll be safer too. Yang Wei quickly added his support. Guo Changjing held back from speaking, studying the young man above. He judged Chunze inexperienced and easy to manipulate. He raised a hand to quiet the crowd before addressing him again. Xiao Chun, this enormous watchtower's wasted with just one person living in it. We mean no harm. We only seek a safe roof over our heads. Everyone acted rashly just now. Don't take it to heart. We're all stuck in this apocalypse. Only mutual aid will keep us alive. If you shelter us, we'll all pitch in to help you defend the tower, won't we? Many nodded their agreement, yet others muttered complaints under their breath. Just a lousy delivery rider putting on airs. He only got lucky drawing this fortress. Damn it. Once he opens that gate, I'll beat him within an inch of his life. Chunze could not hear their whispers, yet he read every bitter, hostile expression clear as day. I told you once already, this fortress is mine. Leave now, before I lose my temper entirely. He'd seen every kind of shamelessness today. How dare these people march up and demand entry to his private shelter without a shred of gratitude? Hong Jie panicked at Chunze's harsh rebuke. Xiao Chen, you can't talk like that. I rented my apartment to you for 6 months, so by rights half this watchtower belongs to me. If you won't let them in, at the very least I get to stay. Her words drew a bitter, hollow laugh from Chunze. Oh really? Did I skip out on paying your rent? Following that logic, if your apartment gets demolished someday, do I get half the demolition payout too? Fine then, let's trade. This tower's barely furnished anyway. You move into my luxury penthouse, and it's all yours even if we ever return to our old world. That place is worth at least 2 million. Chunze had finally witnessed the full depths of human shamelessness today. Trading a penthouse for his impenetrable watchtower? Absurd. Did they think everyone else was an idiot? I'll say this one final time. None of you are stepping foot inside my fortress. If you keep harassing me, I won't hold back. Trapped in this unknown world, Chunze understood the wisdom of hiding his true strength. Though he possessed a firearm, drawing attention to it would only make him a target for greedy schemers. Otherwise, he would have fired a warning shot for them to hear right now. Seeing Chunze refuse all compromise, several people began to back down. The tower was his property after all. Wasting time badgering him was pointless. They'd be better off rushing home to reinforce their doors and windows against the night's monster attack. Manager Gua, he won't let us in. We ought to head back and rethink our options. Yet, dusk's closing in fast. I don't want to die on day one. I'm leaving. New begging him would get us nowhere. I could have finished reinforcing my place by now. Guo Changjing's brow furrowed deeply at their complaints. He lifted his gaze to Chunze's cold, unyielding face. A vicious resolve hardened in his heart. If that's how it's going to be, don't say I didn't warn you. You'll regret this. He spun to face the crowd. That kid up there refuses to treat us as neighbors, so we owe him no politeness back. Everyone charge together. We'll seize this watchtower by force. His command halted every person who turned to leave. Why knock politely when dozens of us can bash the gate down and take it for ourselves? There were no laws to bind them anymore. Might made right. Heh, I've been waiting for you to say that, Manager Gua. Lei Daong, the security captain, grinned maliciously, jabbing a finger upward at Chunze. You ungrateful brat. We tried to treat you nicely, but you threw our kindness back in our faces. Once we break that gate down, you'll pay for this. Lei Daong waved the crowd forward. Everyone with me, pry this gate open. Anyone who slacks off loses their spot inside the tower. With a ringleader riling them up, many surged forward toward the watchtower's main gate. Several snatched loose stones and wooden clubs off the ground as they advanced, unaware their actions had fully stoked Chunze's killing intent. See? We tried reasoning nicely, but you forced Manager Gua and the rest to resort to force. Now what are you going to do? Hong Jie folded her arms across her chest, staring coldly up at the tower. Such an ungrateful young fool. We offered you solidarity, and you spit on it. Once that gate caves in, I'd love to see how cocky you act then. Yang Wei piled on the mockery, ready to hurl more insults, until a hand tugged sharply at the hem of his shirt. He turned to see his wife Wang Yalan, 20 years his junior. What is it? Wang Yalan's brows were knit tight, unease flickering in her eyes. Yang Wei, I don't think this is a good idea. Let's not join this mob. If he owns a fortress like this, he must have other hidden strengths. We don't want to make a deadly enemy of him. Yang Wei scoffed, utterly dismissive. He's just some punk who got lucky drawing a decent fortress. What power could he possibly hold? Once we bust that gate down, I'll break his legs myself. Wang Yalan gave up, trying to persuade him. She stared at the tall, calm figure atop the tower. A strange sense of foreboding settling over her, and clung tightly to Yang Wei's shirt to hold him back from charging forward. Back inside the watchtower, Chunzhe watched Lei Daong and the mob storming closer. The last flicker of mercy inside him vanished completely. He stared down at the crowd with cold, unfeeling eyes. Since they refused to accept goodwill and insisted on pushing this confrontation to bloodshed, they had only themselves to blame for whatever came next. Suicidal fools. Chunzhe bent to pick up his Type 38 Arisaka rifle. The sharp click-clack of him chambering a round cut through the tense air, jarringly loud in the dead silence. He reappeared at the observation slit, the dark muzzle of the rifle aimed dead center at Lei Daong. Lei Daong and his gang had been shouting threats up at Chunzhe moments before. When he vanished from the window, they'd assumed the youth had cowered in fear, only for Chunzhe to reappear brandishing a firearm. Every single one froze rigid on the spot. Holy hell, what's that? A gun. How does this kid have a gun? Staring down the black barrel, Lei Daong's face drained pale as chalk, his legs turning to lead, rooted to the ground without the courage to take another step. Xiao Chun, please calm down. Put that thing away, it'll get someone killed. Lei Daong stammered shakily. The several people around spotted the long gun in Chunzhe's hands and instantly scattered in fright. Guns were extremely rare across Longwa after all, and a young man in a security uniform still doubted whether the firearm was real. Though a flicker of fear gnawed at him, he forced himself to shout, "Humph, it's probably just a toy gun meant to scare us. Don't fall for his trick, everyone." Bang! A crisp gunshot was his only reply. The bullet slammed straight into the young man's chest. Fresh scarlet blood gushed out, instantly soaking the front of his shirt. Shit, I have been shot. Help me." The man's pig-like wails echoed all around, shattering the last shred of false hope lingering in the crowd's hearts. Their mental defenses crumbled in an instant, and boundless terror washed over them. He's killed someone. Run. Run for your lives. He's a monster. Panic erupted among the crowd at once. They scrambled wildly in every direction, having completely lost the bold urge to seize the bunker they displayed moments earlier. Oh my God, he's murdered someone. Sister Hong's legs turned to jelly from terror. She scrambled and crawled toward Yang Wei's house. But just as she nearly reached the door, the security door slammed shut with a bang, leaving no room for her to slip inside. You damned Yang Wei. I hope you're impotent for the rest of your life. Guo Changjung was physically fit. He sprinted dozens of meters without stopping, only stopping to lean against a building and gasp for air, hands braced on his knees. His heart hammered so violently it felt ready to burst through his ribcage. Damn it, how did this kid get a gun? Guo Changjung never imagined this ordinary young man would not only possess a top-tier shelter like the bunker, but also wield such a deadly weapon. Shit, I should have picked the random fortress option. He slammed his fist hard against the ground, producing a dull thud. At that moment, Lei Daong, who stood beside him, finally regained his senses. His face was as pale as paper, his lips trembling non-stop, and his voice cracked with sobs. Manager Guo, what are we going to do now? That kid really dared to shoot. I nearly died of fright just now. Shut your mouth, useless trash. Guo Changjung roared, and Lei Daong fell silent at once, his whole body still shaking like a sieve. Guo Changjung had underworld connections once and still retained a shred of courage. He peeked out cautiously toward the bunker and saw Chunzhe showed no intention of massacring everyone, which let him heave a deep sigh of relief. It looks like we can't take that bunker for now. Lei Daong swallowed hard and asked timidly. So what do we do now? Head back to our separate homes, or? Guo Changjung frowned and pondered for a moment before speaking. Hiding alone might let us scrape by, but if we want to rise above everyone else in this fortress survival world, we have to stick together. He glanced toward the bunker, narrowed his eyes, and went on. That kid does have a gun, but I refuse to believe he has infinite bullets. If I get my chance, humph. A vicious glint flashed across Guo Changjung's eyes as he clenched his fists tight. Manager Guo, where do we go now? Lei Daong asked. Just then, a tall, lanky young man who'd fled alongside them spoke up. Manager Guo, Captain Lei, when I came over earlier, I spotted a huge factory building over there. It's entirely steel-framed, looks rock solid. Guo Changjung's eyes lit up instantly upon hearing this, and he pressed eagerly. Where is it? Does it have windows? I don't think so, right over there. Following the young man's pointing finger, the group caught sight of a massive steel silhouette looming in the distance, standing roughly 2 to 3 stories tall. Perfect, that's where we're going. Over on Chunzhe's side. He stood at the high observation slit of the bunker, watching the panicked fleeing figures gradually vanish from sight, and frowned faintly. Ugh, that hurts. The Type 38 rifle packed an immense recoil. Even though Chun-Zhe had braced himself beforehand, the first shot still sent a dull throbbing pain shooting through his shoulder. He'd originally aimed the shot straight for Lei Daong, but his marksmanship was terrible, and the bullet veered off to hit one of the lackeys beside him instead. Glancing down at the motionless figure below, Chun-Zhe felt no remorse whatsoever. He knew full well that in this doomsday world, mercy toward enemies meant cruelty to oneself. If he hadn't fired that warning shot to scare them off, once they'd broken into the bunker, his fate would have been no better than that man's. You reap what you sow. If you tried to steal my bunker, you should have been ready to meet a brutal end. Muttering to himself, Chun-Zhe resolved to study the system interface while daylight still lingered. The mob had interrupted him earlier, and he'd barely scratched the surface of the system's many functions. He silently summoned the system panel in his mind and tapped the regional chat channel. A pale blue chat interface instantly materialized in his head. Welcome to Longwa Region Chat Channel 11332. Current online users, 96,743/100,000. There are this many people in a single region? That means there must be tens of thousands of separate regions across all of Longwa. Chun-Zhe frowned slightly. He'd hoped to use the regional chat to track down his former partners who'd stabbed him in the back, but now that hope seemed slim. Just thinking about their hateful faces made his teeth grind with rage. If it weren't for them, he wouldn't have lost his company, been dumped by his girlfriend of years, and ended up delivering takeout to scrape by. You bastards, you'd better stay alive out there, otherwise who will I get my revenge on? On the other hand, if none of that had happened, he probably wouldn't have chosen the random fortress option, and he never would have obtained this sturdy bunker. He let out a bitter laugh. Truly, fate had a twisted sense of humor. Pushing those tangled thoughts aside, Chun-Zhe began scrolling through the rapidly refreshing chat messages. Smokes only Zuanheman cigarettes. What the hell just happened? I just checked into a hotel with my girlfriend, popped the pills, and suddenly I'm transported here? I'm going crazy. Hate cilantro. Guys, what fortress did everyone pick? Anyone go for random fortress? I'm a bullman. I picked random, got a 3-story standalone villa. I'm sprawled on genuine leather sofas eating caviar right now. Super wide open doors. Buddy above, watch your back. Villas have tons of windows from what I've heard. Good luck with that. I'm a bullman. So what if there are lots of windows? Great natural light. Though man, why is this godforsaken place so hot? Hanshin Gojian and Jiaoyang. Ha ha ha. Enjoy that natural light. Let's see how optimistic you are when monsters come at night. Feifei loves dancing, trading designer handbags for food. Guys who have supplies, add me as a friend or list them on the trade market. No seats left. Grade A talent shelter looking for a female roommate. Must have a great figure and cute face. DM if interested. The chat channel was flooded with all kinds of chatter. Beyond casual banter, most messages were pleas for help, trade offers, or scattered survival tips. Chun-Zhe skimmed quickly, finding little information of real value. He opened the trade system, and dozens of buy requests popped up at once. 10 packs of Little Raccoon instant noodles for any weapon, axes, hammers, baseball bats, all fine. 10 bottles of mineral water in exchange for trauma medicine. Online waiting, urgent. Looking to buy weapons, food, water, DM me if you've got stock. After browsing for a while, he saw weapons were the most sought-after commodity on the market. Clearly, most survivors understood that arms were the key to staying alive in this apocalyptic world. But one thing confused him. Why was every trade barter-based? Didn't this advanced system have a unified currency? It was only when Chun-Zhe opened the exchange hub that he discovered the system did feature a virtual currency called survival coins. There were numerous ways to earn survival coins. The simplest was daily survival. 10 coins awarded for each full day you stayed alive. You could also gain coins by killing attacking monsters and wild creatures. Additionally, completing achievements and special events granted survival coin rewards as well. No wonder no one trades with survival coins. Even the easiest way to earn them requires killing monsters. Right now, I bet you could count everyone with any coins on one hand. The exchange hub only listed a handful of goods. Ordinary drinking water, it'll quench your thirst. No guaranteed stomach comfort. 5 survival coins per liter, high-protein energy bar, rest assured. No bug ingredients. 5 survival coins per bar. Emergency light, solar rechargeable, reusable. 20 survival coins fire axe if you've got the strength. 1 clean swing can cleave a monster's skull. 50 survival coins. Grade F leather armor blocks damage from low-tier monsters. 50 survival coins. Grade F backpack, 20 storage slots. Actual capacity depends on item size. 200 survival coins. Grade F Emergency Durability Repair Kit restores 100 Fortress durability in one use. 100 Survival Coins Tier 2 Fortress Blueprint Mandatory Material to upgrade your fortress. Skip it if you plan to laze around forever. 1,000 Survival Coins. All remaining items were grayed out. When Chunzhe tapped 1, a system prompt popped up, Fortress Level 2 low. Please upgrade and try again. The exchange hub's prices are absolutely extortionate. After all, scraping through an entire day of survival only earned a measly 10 survival coins, barely enough for 1 liter of water or a single energy bar. The system was practically forcing people to hunt monsters. This backpack's pretty decent, though. Chunzhe nodded faintly. He couldn't stay cooped up in the bunker forever. Whether gathering supplies or hunting wild bosses out in the wilderness, a large capacity backpack would be indispensable. Without any survival coins on hand, he couldn't buy anything from the exchange hub for the time being. He returned to the trade market and stared at the endless trade posts, stuck in a dilemma. His bunker had everything except food and water. Half a day had passed since he'd arrived in this world, and his stomach was already growling loudly. But all he had were 5 Type 38 rifles and 1 Type 95 infantry howitzer. Was he really supposed to trade such devastating weapons for food? No way, that'd be idiotic. I can tough out one more day of hunger. Once the monster raids start, I'll earn enough survival coins by killing them to buy food. Having made up his mind, Chunzhe closed the system interface. He lifted his gaze to the outside world, which had turned dim at dusk. 2 blazing crimson suns hung low on the horizon, bathing the land in an eerie scarlet glow. Just then, a woman's voice drifted over. Mr. Chun, can you hear me? Chunzhe frowned and turned his eyes toward the source of the voice. The light had faded too much, and there were no outdoor lamps, so he could only make out a blurry figure standing a short distance away. The woman was short, wearing tight athletic wear that faintly outlined an alluring curve to her body. Who's there? Chunzhe raised his Type 38 rifle and aimed straight at her. Mr. Chun, thank goodness you heard me. It's me, Wang Yalan, Yang Wei's wife. She must have spotted Chunzhe aiming the gun, because she spoke rapidly, blurting out her identity in one breath. Oh, Yang Wei's wife. What did she want with him? Wang Yalan was his neighbor, and they'd crossed paths before. Every time he'd seen her, she'd looked polished and elegant. More than once Chunzhe had thought to himself that old man Yang Wei was incredibly lucky to have such a beautiful young wife. Still, beautiful women were the last people you could trust, especially in an apocalypse. Chunzhe watched the blurry silhouette, his guard never dropping for a second. It's you. What do you want? Here to try and steal my bunker too? Wang Yalan trembled all over the moment she heard that and hurried to explain. No, absolutely not. She stole a glance at the corpse Chunzhe had shot earlier, swallowed her dry throat, and went on. Brother Chun, I'm here to apologize for my husband's reckless behavior today. I've brought some food and water as a peace offering. I beg you to be magnanimous and not hold it against him. As she spoke, Wang Yalan unzipped the bag in her hands, revealing several food items and bottles of mineral water inside. She set it gently on the ground before stepping back several paces. What game was she playing now? A honey trap? Planning to trick me into opening the door and ambush me while I grabbed the supplies? While Chunzhe hesitated, Wang Yalan seemed to read his wariness. Mr. Chun, rest assured I have no ulterior motives. I only came to apologize sincerely. With that, she pulled out a long length of rope, tied one end to the bag, and fastened a rock to the other. I'll move closer and toss this through your firing slit. Chunzhe frowned, but did not stop her, only watching coldly as the woman tiptoed forward. Wang Yalan reached the base of the bunker, stood on her tiptoes, and tossed the rock 4 or 5 times. Finally, with a dull thud, the weighted rope flew through the slit and landed inside. Once that was done, she jogged back 20 to 30 meters away from the bunker and stopped. Even without lights, even from dozens of meters off, Chunzhe could clearly see her graceful figure swaying beneath the tight athletic wear as she ran. He swallowed his parched throat and spoke. What's your real reason for all this? Don't tell me it's just an apology. As soon as the words left his mouth, Chunzhe's peripheral vision caught something. Yang Wei's front security door was ajar, and a reflective head peeked out furtively, looking every inch the useless husband he was. Lon, it'll be fully dark soon. Come back quickly. Got it. I'll finish talking with Mr. Chun right away. Wang Yalan called back to him, but her reply sounded strange to Chunzhe's ears. Finish right away? What on earth was that supposed to mean? They hadn't done a single thing. Mr. Chun, I actually have a small favor to ask of you. A hint of hesitation colored Wang Yalan's voice, as if she were carefully choosing her words. I'd hurry up and speak your piece. The monsters could show up any minute now. Chunze warned. Wang Yalan glanced up at the pitch-black sky, panic flickering across her face. Mr. Chun, my husband Yang Wei's health is poor. I don't know if we'll survive the monster raid tonight. Sensing where this was going, Chunze cut her off directly. Let me guess, you want to move into my bunker? No, nothing like that. I just wondered, if you can spare the capacity while keeping yourself safe, could you help us? Even if you end up doing nothing at all, I won't hold it against you. We're offering this of our own free will. Wang Yalan spoke urgently, gazing up at his tall silhouette with pure pleading in her eyes. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 full seconds dragged by, time seeming to stand still. Wang Yalan stared tensely at Chunze, her hands unconsciously twisting the hem of her top, looking every bit like a desperate wife at her mercy, because that was exactly what she was. Very well, I'll help you. She'd laid everything out plainly, and Chunze saw no reason to refuse. He could choose to help or not as he pleased, so there was no downside to agreeing. Joy and gratitude instantly lit up Wang Yalan's face upon hearing his answer. Mr. Chun, thank you so much. Thank you. I'll head back home now. With that, Wang Yalan turned and hurried toward her house, her hips swaying enticingly with every quick step. What a smart woman, Chunze muttered, heading downstairs and hauling the sack up into the blockhouse using the rope. The sack held barely any proper meals, only snacks, way-long spicy strips, kiss-burned chili cakes, caterpillar-shaped sweetbread, and beef jerky. These must have all been Wang Yalan's usual treats. Chunze wolfed down most of them in one go, then chugged 2 bottles of water. Only then did his stomach stop churning uncomfortably. Man, nothing beats a full belly. He stretched lazily, a wave of drowsiness suddenly washing over him. Just then, his gaze drifted through the firing slit, and he froze at the bizarre sight unfolding outside. Countless streaks of crimson light surged toward him like a tide, flickering and dancing in the dark as if a horde of ghosts risen straight from hell. Chunze's heart clenched tight. They're here. The monsters are coming. There were no lights to see by. He could barely make out their silhouettes in the moonlight, all of them human-shaped. Crash! The sound of shattering glass cut through the night, followed by a man's terrified scream. Zombies. They're zombies. A flashlight flickered to life inside a nearby house, illuminating a horrifying, twisted face. The zombie's features were contorted, its eyes wide and empty, yet blazing with unbridled ferocity. Stinking, slimy saliva dripped from its jaws, and its skin was a sickly ashen gray covered in festering sores, bones peeking through the flesh in places. Its hands resembled eagle talons, long black claws reaching straight for the man. He scrambled away in terror, the claws scraping harshly against solid concrete, sending showers of sparks flying. Hiss! Chunze sucked in a sharp breath, goosebumps bursting out all over his body. Damn it all, it's only the first night. How can they already be this strong? Before he could think further, a scraping noise echoed up from below, zombie claws raking against the iron gate. Screech, scratch, screech, scratch. The ear-splitting sound felt like each scrape was tearing at his heart, making him shudder violently. Right then, the system alert chimed. Ding! Your shelter is under attack. Monitor your shelter durability at all times. Chunze quickly pulled up the system interface and opened his Fortress stats panel. The blockhouse's durability had already dropped to 95. He watched closely and saw that every scratch from the zombies against the walls or iron gate chipped away care, falling 1 point roughly every 10 hits. In the split second he'd wasted checking the stats, durability ticked down another notch. At this rate, the fortress wouldn't hold out a few hours, let alone an entire night. I need to thin out the horde surrounding the blockhouse. Chunze climbed onto the observation ledge, raised his Type 38 rifle, and fired. Bang! The bullet arced downward and buried itself dead center in the zombie's skull, tearing a fist-sized hole in its crown as dark green blood splattered everywhere. Ding! Congratulations, survivor. You have slain an F-rank zombie. Reward, 10 survival coins. Ding! Congratulations, you are the first survivor in this district to kill a zombie. Bonus reward, 50 survival coins. Unlocked medal, First Blood. Whoa, I unlocked an achievement. Thrilled, Chunze opened the system menu to check his new reward. Medal. First Blood survivors may only equip 1 medal at a time stat bonus, plus 3 item drop rate. Anything that boosts drops is a no-brainer. He equipped it instantly. A dark black medal materialized on his chest, etched with a single scarlet drop of blood. Wearing the First Blood medal filled Chunze with newfound confidence. That 3 bonus was nothing to scoff at. If an item previously had a 0 drop chance, this small boost created an entirely new possibility of looting it. He now held 60 survival coins total. To fight the horde more effectively, he bought 3 emergency power lights from the exchange shop. The blockhouse had exactly 3 observation slits. He mounted 1 light at each opening. The perimeter was instantly flooded with light, bright as day, leaving 0 blind spots. Chunze licked his lips, grinning eagerly. Come get some, my lovely zombie babies. Taste my type 38. Bang bang bang. Continuous gunshots rang out, and the zombies swarming the blockhouse thinned at a visible rate. He'd preloaded full magazines into all 5 of his Type 38 rifles beforehand. Once one gun ran dry, he swapped for the next without a moment's pause. Ha ha ha, this feels amazing. Chunze laughed loudly, his eyes blazing with excitement. Ever since his best friend betrayed him, his life had been nothing but endless debt and mindless labor. He'd spun like a top whipped by fate without a single moment to breathe. But now, trapped in this alien world, his debts were gone, and all the crushing worries that weighed him down had vanished too. If fate's giving me a second chance to turn my life around, I'm grabbing it with both hands. Bang! Another shot fired. Chunze's marksmanship was mediocre at best, but the zombies below were packed shoulder to shoulder. He barely needed to aim. Every shot hit its mark. As he prepared to fire again, he spotted a faint wisp of white mist floating above the corpse of the zombie he'd just shot. Huh, what's that? Did it drop loot? Chunze squinted to make it out, but the blockhouse stood 4 stories tall, and countless other zombies still roamed the grounds below. He couldn't tell what lay hidden within the mist. Never mind that. Prioritize clearing the horde first. Knowing kills could drop loot only fueled his bloodlust. He kept firing until all 5 rifles ran out of ammo, finally pausing to catch his breath. He rubbed his shoulder, throbbing from the rifle recoil, never taking his eyes off the chaos below. Nearly half the zombies surrounding the blockhouse were dead now. 2 white glows and 1 cyan glow floated among the bodies, like colorful candies scattered atop a black forest cake. 2 more loot orbs dropped. This first blood medal is absolutely worth it. He brushed a finger over the medal on his chest, glad he'd drawn a random fortress at the start. If he'd been stuck in an ordinary house facing this horde, he'd be struggling just like everyone else. While reloading his rifles, he scanned the surrounding buildings. Other survivors were clearly having a far worse time than him. A short distance away, a horde of zombies scratched and slammed against the doors and windows of a residential home. Roars and the grating scrape of claws on wood echoed, sounding like the cold whispers of the Grim Reaper. Inside, a family of 3 fought for their lives. The husband strained to shove a wardrobe in front of the window to block the zombies' advance. Mommy, I'm scared. A 4 or 5-year-old little girl clung tightly to her mother's legs. She couldn't fully grasp what was happening, but the terrifying silhouettes outside and the blood-curdling growls filled her young heart with terror. Don't be afraid, Yunyun. Mommy and Daddy won't let those monsters hurt you. The woman forced down her terror, knelt, and pulled her daughter into the corner, shaking like a leaf. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her cheeks, drowning her in despair. Boom. A deafening crash rang out as the plastic steel window frame buckled and collapsed entirely under the assault. We're done for. It's all over. The man froze mid-movement. The last flicker of hope for survival snuffed out completely. Then something strange happened. The snarling zombies seemed not to notice the broken entryway. They kept scratching mindlessly, roaring ferociously at the trapped family inside. If you don't want to die, grab a weapon and cut them down. Once your shelter durability hits 0, you won't get lucky like this. The voice belonged to Chunze. He'd watched the scene unfold clearly and deduced the mechanic. The zombies acted on blind instinct, continuing to attack their original target even after other openings appeared. He also noticed far fewer zombies besieging that house than his own blockhouse. Even after cutting his horde nearly in half, over 30 still lingered below him, while only 20-something surrounded the family's home. He figured his fortress must be a far bigger draw than ordinary buildings. Hurry up. You'll be too late if you waste more time, he shouted again. He recognized the family. They lived upstairs from him, always polite and quick to nod when they crossed paths. Most importantly, they hadn't sided with Manager Gua and his group earlier that day. They can't climb through the broken window? Chunze's words jolted the man awake. He glanced at his terrified wife and daughter, his eyes blazing red with rage. I'll kill every last one of you bastards. He snatched a kitchen cleaver, charged 2 steps to the window, and hacked wildly at the zombie horde without hesitation. Clang, clang, clang. 3 or 4 brutal swings later, he cleanly severed a zombie's head. The twisted corpse crumpled to the ground, motionless at last. It's dead, it's really dead. He shouted to hype himself up, slashing the cleaver back and forth in a frenzy. Shinzei watched the man, exhaling slowly. Whether they live or die is up to them now. He knew better than to play the hero in this twisted fortress survival game. He'd already gone out of his way to warn them. That was more than enough kindness. Glancing toward Yang Wei's place, he saw only around 20 zombies surrounding the building. Metal security bars covered every window, so they'd be safe for the time being. He thought back to the agreement he'd made with Wang Yalan and curled his lip in a scoff. I only promised to help if I had spare capacity. Whether they hold out long enough for that help is none of my concern. All 5 Type 38s were fully reloaded now, and Chunzei resumed his slaughter. Ding. F-rank zombie slain. Reward, 10 survival coins. Ding. F-rank zombie slain. Reward, 10 survival coins. One system alert followed another as zombies collapsed to the ground, his survival coin count climbing rapidly. To Chunzei, the zombies below were no longer a threat. They were nothing but piles of gleaming gold coins. While one man prospered, another drowned in despair. Dozens of meters away, the atmosphere inside Yang Wei's apartment had turned ice cold. Lan, you promised that Qin guy would help us. Why hasn't he shown up yet? Yang Wei paced frantically, staring at the fortress panel as his sheltered durability plummeted. Unlike Chunzei's sturdy blockhouse, Yang Wei lived in a standard apartment with a base defense value of only 2. The zombie assault had already worn durability down to 38. The barrier would crumble any minute now. I knew that man couldn't be trusted. He took all our supplies and won't lift a finger to help. Wang Yalan huddled trembling in the corner, terrified by the snarling zombies outside. Still, she frowned sharply at her husband's bitter complaints. Yang Wei, this is a life or death situation. Instead of figuring out how to fight these zombies off, you pin all our hopes on a stranger. Are you even a man? The words struck a raw nerve, stinging far deeper than an ordinary insult. For Yang Wei, they carried an ugly, accusatory undertone. What did you just say, Wang Yalan? Who do you claim isn't a man? Yang Wei flew into a rage like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. You shameless woman, tell me the truth. Are you tired of being with an older man, and now you want to throw yourself at that young punk? He cut her off before she could explain, screaming loud enough to drown out the zombies' roars. I knew it all along. I saw you exchanging secret glances with that Chen creep, plotting something behind my back. You said you struck a deal with him. You two must have hooked up ages ago. How could you betray me like this? You were just a girl from some remote mountain village, and I fed you, clothed you, paid for your schooling. Now you turn around and say I'm not a real man. Wang Yalan seethed, hot tears welling up in her eyes. You're completely unreasonable. Zombies are right outside our door. We could die any second, and you waste time spouting this nonsense. Nonsense? Humph. When you blocked me from confronting him earlier today, I wondered how you knew that kid had hidden tricks up his sleeve. Turns out you two were colluding all along. Yang Wei lunged forward and grabbed Wang Yalan by the throat, his hand shaking from the force of his grip. Shameless woman, if I hadn't called out to you just now, would you have run straight to that boy's blockhouse to stay with him? Speak. Answer me. Wang Yalan gasped for air as her airway closed, yet she did not struggle. Her eyes held only endless disappointment. This very man had supported her selflessly for over a decade, lifting her out of a remote mountain village to receive an education and live a life she'd once only dreamed of. She'd always been grateful to him, and even after learning of his infertility, she'd married him without complaint. Now, at the brink of death, he accused her of betrayal. Being torn apart by zombies might be a kinder fate than this humiliation. The thought sent tears streaming down her face, dripping onto Yang Wei's arm. The burning tears jolted Yang Wei back to his senses. Staring at his wife's devastated, hopeless expression, memories of their life together flashed through his mind, hammering his heart like a sledgehammer. More importantly, if he strangled Wang Yalan to death, Chunzei would never lift a finger to save him, and the zombies would tear him to shreds without mercy. His grip loosened instantly. Wang Yalan collapsed to the floor, gasping raggedly, her gaze hollow and empty as if her soul had been torn from her body. Yang Wei stared at his trembling hands, consumed with remorse. He'd lost his temper completely. Thank God he hadn't killed her, or he wouldn't survive the night. Lan, I'm a monster. It's all my fault, all my fault. He dropped to his knees and crawled toward her. When he saw her face ashen, refusing to spare him a single glance, he began slapping himself hard across the cheeks. Smack, smack, smack. I'm sorry, Lan. I flew off the handle. I'm so sorry. Tears and snot streamed down his face as he beat himself. Wang Yalan watched, her heart softening despite everything. But she knew deep down that whether she survived the night or not, any affection between her and this man was gone forever. Enough. Wang Yalan cut him off. Her voice was quiet, yet cold and resolute. She pushed herself shakily to her feet against the wall and walked toward the kitchen. When she returned, she held two sharp cleavers in her hands. Lan, what are you doing? Those are zombies. If they scratch or bite you, you'll get infected. It'd be worse than death. Yang Wei cried out in alarm. In his eyes, his gentle, obedient wife had never displayed such ferocity before. Wang Yalan shot him a cold, dismissive glance and let out a bitter huff, filled with contempt. All old feelings were dead and buried. From this moment on, she would fight to survive only for herself. Without hesitation, she raised one cleaver high and hacked at the nearest zombie pressed against the window. Squelch! The blade buried itself halfway into the zombie's skull, dark green blood gushing out instantly. Roar! The creature did not drop dead immediately. Its murky eyes locked onto Wang Yalan, its massive jaws snapping and howling, reeking of rot and decay. Wang Yalan stumbled backward, nearly losing her grip on the cleaver lodged in its head. I can't let fear drive me away. I have to live. She roared the thought silently, tightening her grip on the handle. She pushed hard against the blade, yanking it free from the zombie's skull using the counterforce of her legs. The zombie spotted its escaping prey and swiped its claws toward her, but it moved sluggishly, its brain crippled by the deep wound. Note: the zombies in the early chapters come across as somewhat formulaic walking corpses. As players progress through the Fortress survival game, zombies will gradually grow swifter, gain greater intelligence, and even develop superhuman abilities. Its wild swipe lacked any precision at all, overexerting itself threw its body off balance, and it toppled straight through the window into the room. We're done for. A zombie's inside. The same terrifying thought flashed through both Yang Wei and Wang Yalan's minds. If the creature had only been on the other side of the waist-high wall, they might have held it off by virtue of the terrain. But now that it had breached the room, they would be forced into brutal hand-to-hand combat. One wrong scratch or bite would spell catastrophic consequences. Run. Yang Wei reacted in an instant. Without a single glance back at Wang Yalan, he scrambled and crawled toward the bedroom, the last line of defense in the entire space. Bang! The bedroom door slammed shut hard, followed by the faint rustle of the lock clicking into place from the inside. Yang Wei, haha, you really are no man at all. Wang Yalan laughed out of unbridled rage. She did not spare the charging zombie a glance. She knew she stood no chance against it. Taking down this zombie without sustaining injury would be a Herculean task even for a strong man, let alone a powerless woman like herself. Lan, don't blame me. I had no choice. If that zombie gets to us, we'll both die. I don't want to die. I still want to get back to Earth. I want to live. Blame Chinzei. That's right, it's all his fault. If that guy had bothered to help us sooner, the zombie never would have gotten in. This is all on him. Damn Chinzei. You've got a gun. Why couldn't you lend us a hand? Yang Wei's voice echoed from behind the door. Every word was Mandarin, yet strung together, they sounded alien and absurd to Wang Yalan's ears. Yang Wei, I was blind to marry you. Wang Yalan tightened her grip on a kitchen cleaver and pressed the blade against her own throat. She held no lingering affection for this man, and she refused to turn into one of those flesh-eating monsters. She turned her head, her gaze passing straight over the zombie inches away to drift out the window. She wanted one last look at the world outside. Farewell. The split second before the knife bit into her skin, a bullet streaked with fire slammed dead center into the zombie's skull. Boom. The zombie collapsed rigidly without so much as a whimper. Dark emerald blood pooled across the floor, trickling all the way to Wang Yalan's feet. Clatter. Shock widened Wang Yalan's eyes, and the cleaver slipped from her grasp, clattering onto the ground. She stared disbelievingly at the fallen corpse, then followed the bullet's trajectory upward. Standing atop the tall watchtower, a tall, straight figure leaned out, peering down toward her. Hey, you still alive down there? The voice carried quiet concern, no trace of mockery. A lump clogged Wang Yalan's throat, and hot tears spilled free before she could stop them. I'm all right, she stammered shakily. What? Speak up, can't hear a thing. If you got scratched by the zombie, stick your head out. I'll put a bullet in you to put you out of your misery. The distance was too great for Chunzei to make out her words clearly, so he shouted blindly. I'm fine. I wasn't bitten at all. This time Wang Yalan practically roared, her voice crystal clear across the gap. Good to hear. Moments earlier, Chunzei had burned through 40 to 50 rounds to clear all the zombies surrounding his position. He'd glanced over just in time to witness that life or death scene. She's one lucky woman. My shot nailed that zombie square in the head from dozens of meters away. Kinda ridiculous marksmanship, if you ask me. Chunzei muttered to himself, then called out a warning. Hey, where's Yang Wei? Did he bite it? Fair warning, you two have to pull your weight killing zombies too. Don't expect me to bail you out nonstop. Bullets don't grow on trees. At those words, Wang Yalan burst into tearful laughter. Right, bullets were precious in this apocalypse. Yet only a moment ago, he'd offered to waste one just to end her suffering. This man was gruff on the surface, but soft underneath, 10,000 times more reliable than that beast Yang Wei. Thank you so much. Wang Yalan wiped her tears, bowed deeply toward the watchtower, then rummaged through the house for a usable weapon. All the home's windows had long since shattered. Even through the closed bedroom door, Yang Wei heard every word of their exchange crystal clear. He quietly unlatched the lock and pulled the door open a hair's breadth. Through the crack, he saw the zombie lying motionless in the living room. Wang Yalan had already found a weapon, his golf club. She gripped the club with both hands and smashed it repeatedly into the skull of another zombie lingering outside the window, splattering dark green gore all over her clothes. Worse yet, gunfire from the watchtower kept ringing out toward this side. Bang! Bang! Each report came paired with a zombie's shriek or the thud of a falling body, their numbers dwindling fast. He checked his fortress stats. Durability stood at only 15 points left. At this rate, they might actually survive the night. That brat must have the hots for my wife. I knew there was something going on between them. Yang Wei was utterly convinced Wang Yalan and Chun Zhe were hiding an affair. Why else would anyone waste priceless bullets just over a bag of snacks? Selfish as he was, he'd never do such a thing. Then a new thought struck him. If his wife could cozy up to Chun Zhe for protection, couldn't he also move into that sturdy watchtower? I've got no use for her anyway. Letting someone else take her off my hands doesn't sound half bad. Yang Wei truly ranked among history's most tolerant men, right up there with Han Xian, Go Jian, and the likes. That line of thinking alone was shockingly shameless. Lon, I went to grab a weapon in the back room just now. That's why I took so long. Are you okay? I'm coming to help you right now. Yang Wei scrambled to excuse his earlier cowardice, avoiding eye contact the whole time. Wang Yalan tilted her head slightly, her eyes filled with unmasked revulsion. Grabbing a weapon. She swung the golf club hard into the head of another zombie creeping close. The filthy blood splattered dangerously near Yang Wei's face. He stumbled backward in fright. When he regained his bearings, he found Wang Yalan staring coldly at him. Once this night is over, we go our separate ways. You take your broad road. I'll cross my single-plank bridge alone. Lon, you're just upset right now. Don't talk nonsense. Panic flared in Yang Wei. He'd just hatched his scheme to hand his wife over to Chun Zhe, so he could live in comfort and safety. If Wang Yalan cut ties now, all his plans would fall apart. Lon, I admit I panicked earlier, but I'm out here fighting beside you now, aren't I? Don't you remember how I supported you unconditionally back before all this? Shut up. Wang Yalan cut him off sharply before he could ramble on. Everything you gave me in the past has already been repaid. Her brows furrowed tight, her gaze sharp with unyielding resolve. For years, even with a 20-year age gap between us, I waited on you without a single complaint. But today I've finally seen your true colors. You're a spineless coward, a worthless loser, just as your name suggests. Her words ripped open all his old wounds. For all his self-proclaimed tolerance, Yang Wei's face burned red with rage, fury flashing in his eyes. You bitch. What the hell did you just say? Yang Wei jabbed a finger at her, stepped forward 2 paces, and raised his hand high to strike. Yet he froze mid-motion. He met Wang Yalan's icy stare and saw the golf club clench tight in her grasp. Their eyes locked, his raised hand suspended uselessly in the air. It hit him then. The woman before him was no longer the docile spouse he'd once controlled. The cruelty of the apocalypse had forged her into something tougher. Loser. With only that scathing remark, Wang Yalan turned back to battling the zombies, her contempt for Yang Wei plain to see. Gulp. Yang Wei swallowed hard. For a split second, genuine fear had seized him. If that vicious woman swung that club at him, he'd end up black and blue all over. Stupid bitch. You think latching onto some strong guy lets you cast me aside? Everyone in this complex knows you're my wife. Even in this apocalypse, I'd like to see Chun Zhe brave the judgment of every survivor to take you for himself. With that thought, Yang Wei flopped onto the sofa, crossed his legs, and watched Wang Yalan with a smug sneer. Think you're clever enough to outplay me? I've lived more years than you've eaten rice. And as for Chun Zhe, if he thinks he can mess around with my wife, I'll make him pay dearly for it. Achoo! Chun Zhe rubbed his nose and muttered. Someone's talking about me behind my back. Thanks to his and Wang Yalan's combined fire, every zombie surrounding Yang Wei's house had been eliminated completely. He'd only seen Wang Yalan fighting at the window the entire time, not a single glimpse of Yang Wei. Has that old man already gotten himself killed? Shame about his pretty young wife, if that's the case. Counting the horde at Yang Wei's residence, Chunzhe had slain more than 70 zombies that night. Coupled with the first blood bonus, he now held a total of 760 survival coins. 760 coins, an astronomical sum. This was only the very first night of Fortress survival. Most players were barely clinging to life, while Chunzhe had earned his first major fortune to kickstart his rise. He was certain fewer than 10 survivors across all Dragon Country could match his haul. The reason was simple. Dragon Country maintained extremely strict firearms regulations. At the outbreak of the apocalypse, almost no one could get their hands on guns to fend off zombies like he had. 99% of survivors were forced to rely on melee weapons, fighting for their lives amid hordes of undead, with every swing carrying mortal risk. Getting through one night, slaying over 70 zombies was unthinkable for anyone else. With the zombies cleared and a hefty stock of survival coins in his pocket, Chunzhe's frayed nerves finally unwound, replaced by an unprecedented rush of excitement. He'd originally planned to head out to loot the spoils right away, but glancing at the pitch-black night sky, he suppressed that reckless impulse. The system voice made it clear monsters attack after dark, and it never said they'd only come once. I'll wait till sunrise to go out. It'd be embarrassing to die from carelessness out here. Having settled on that plan, Chunzhe resolved to hold off. The loot wasn't going anywhere, and theft was the least of his worries. Within hundreds of meters, every survivor besides him and the couple in that house was locked in desperate combat. No one dared venture outside. It would be suicide. He tore open a pack of Weilong spicy strips and pulled up his system interface. Regional chat channel. Current online users, 54, 242/100, 000. Whoa, it's only midnight. Why'd so many people drop offline? Chunzhe's heart sank at the plummeting online count. Those missing players were almost certainly dead. He scrolled through the channel messages. Minotaur bro, guys, how many zombies are swarming your fortresses? I've got 30 to 40 of them surrounding mine. Little eel catcher, our hideout's a basement. Only 7 or 8 zombies outside, but our durability's tanking fast. Any guy got an emergency repair kit to trade? Whirlwind Kid, begging for coins. I've listed everything I own on the trade market. Any high-level player with spare coins, save me. Sovereign descends. Everyone, prioritize killing zombies. You can't rely solely on fortress durability to hold out. Cut down their numbers no matter what. Plain country lad, anyone send me some survival coins? My durability's almost 0. Son of heaven, huh? Why didn't you say something sooner? I sold all my belongings just to buy one emergency repair kit. Now it's useless. Compared to daytime, the chat scrolled far slower. Most survivors were still locked in combat. Those browsing the channel were only here to beg for outside aid on a last-ditch chance. That Minotaur bro guy spawned in a villa, right? Why only 30-something zombies around such a huge place? Chunzhe had previously guessed zombie numbers scaled with fortress size, but this new information told him the formula was far more complex. Could it tie to the overall shelter rating instead? He furrowed his brow. His own shelter was only rank D. Had rank D already become extremely rare among players? After mulling it over, his theory felt more and more plausible. Fortresses with different ratings draw different hordes of zombies. That balances early game fairness while leaving greater room for stronger players to thrive. If that's how it works, shelter ratings are far more critical than I thought. Chunzhe's original goal had been to upgrade his watchtower to Tier 2 as soon as possible, strengthening its defenses and unlocking more tradable supplies. Now he realized he'd oversimplified things. Simply leveling up the tower would boost its armor and durability, but his shelter rating would skyrocket alongside it. If his weapons couldn't keep pace with the stronger zombie hordes drawn by a higher rating, he'd only be digging his own grave. My top priority needs to be unlocking a fortress talent as soon as possible. Chunzhe knew his Type 38 rifle and mortar were only temporary crutches. Ammo and shells would run dry sooner or later. By contrast, the SSS-Rank talent loot was the true foundation for his long-term dominance. I need to figure out which survivors nearby hold powerful talents worth trading for. With his short-term goals mapped out clearly, Chunzhe reached for more spicy strips, only to realize Wang Yalan's food gifts were nearly gone. No problem. I've got plenty of survival coins now. Let's hit the trade market. He opened the marketplace, flooded with countless listings. Selling genuine leather king-size Simmons mattress, barely used, owned by a young woman. Only 5 survival coins. 85 charged power bank for 1 survival coin. 10 survival coins for 10 gene of rice. Only 5 sets available, fast deals only. Authentic homemade Hunan cured bacon, 2 coins per gene. Urgent sale. Use stockings from female student in exchange for emergency repair kit. First come, first served. The listings were wildly varied. Far fewer players were begging for weapons than during the day. A clear sign, most people who owned guns or melee gear had already perished. Survival coins were the most coveted commodity on the market right now. Nothing beat holding an emergency repair kit in this crisis. Yet one kit cost a steep 100 survival coins, a staggering price for survivors teetering on the brink of death. Prices are surprisingly low right now. Compared to the official exchange counter, player listings drastically undervalued goods. Desperate to survive the first night, people were willing to trade away everything. Chunze rubbed his hands together and began bulk buying. Cured bacon? I'll take 10 gene. No, this stuff stores well. Make it 20 gene. Instant noodles? 2 cartons to start. Small cream cakes? Pass. Short shelf life. Spoil too easily. Beer? Loads of it. Grab 10 crates. Hontishan cigarettes? Nah. I've hit the big time now. Only Chunghwa for me. Other brands make me cough. Chunze swore he'd never splurged this wildly even back on Earth. Staring at the mountain of supplies stacking up in his inventory, a wide grin split his face from ear to ear. Hee, this haul keep me fed and stocked for half a month easy. Chunze stuck firmly to one shopping principle. Buy whatever's cheap, never what's supposedly right. After splurging this way, he'd hauled a mountain of daily supplies for just over 200 survival coins, leaving him with 550 coins remaining. Your body's your greatest asset in the fight against disaster. How are you supposed to beat zombies on an empty stomach? Chunze mumbled as he chowed down a chicken drumstick. Just then, a system notification popped up. Someone wanted to add him as a friend. Chunze frowned slightly. No one should know my ID. Who'd be sending a friend request? He opened the friends panel and saw a request from a user named Fatty's the Absolute Boss. Fatty's the Absolute Boss? That username rings a bell. It hit him all at once. That guy was the one who'd traded him his carton of Chinese cigarettes. 5 survival coins for the whole pack if he remembered right. Was he here to back out because he'd sold them too cheap? Chunze had no intention of replying. Filling his belly was his top priority. He had no time for random strangers. Seconds later, the same friend request popped up again. Come on, can't you take a hint? He tapped accept, determined to see what this fatty guy wanted. The second the friend request went through, an instant message pinged in. Fatty's the Absolute Boss. Big shot. It's the guy who sold you cigarettes and toilet paper. You remember me, right? Chunze hadn't realized the toilet paper had also come from him. He thought for a second and shot a reply back. Magic City Li Yunlong, what's up? You got more cigarettes to sell? I've got plenty for now, don't need any. Magic City Li Yunlong was naturally Chunze's ID. As for why he'd picked the name, in this doomsday world, you needed the guts, wit, and fighting spirit of Li Yunlong if you wanted to stay alive. Fatty's the Absolute Boss. Nope, sold all my stock to you. I added you mainly to ask, do you have any insane high-tier weapons on you? Could you sell me one? As Fatty typed the message, he squeezed his hands tight with nerves. Outside his shelter, zombies scratched relentlessly against the walls, and he whispered a quiet prayer to himself. Please say yes, please say yes. I'm done for if he turns me down. Chunze read the message and sneered to himself. In this fortress survival world, weapons were your lifeline. There was no way he'd hand one over to a stranger. Still, he was curious what made Fatty so certain he owned powerful gear. Magic City Li Yunlong. What makes you think I've got top-tier weapons? Just because I don't haggle when buying supplies? Fatty's the Absolute Boss. Ordinary survivors wouldn't blow survival coins on cigarettes, let alone buy them without a second thought. I figured you must have some killer way to rack up tons of coins, which almost certainly means you've got powerful weapons. That's why I worked up the nerve to message you. Chunze grew instantly wary. He hadn't imagined his casual shopping habits would reveal so much about him. Thankfully, system usernames held no link to real identities. If they did, that tiny slip-up could have landed him in huge trouble. Magic City Li Yunlong, you're overthinking it. I just got lucky and earned a bunch of survival coins from system rewards. I don't have any fancy weapons. If that's all you wanted, I'm gonna unfriend you. Chunze saw no point dragging out the conversation, but his message sent Fatty into a panic. Holy hell, system rewards? This Li Yunlong must have unlocked an achievement. He's definitely a top-tier player. I'm saved. Fatty trembled with excitement and fired off a rushed reply. Fatty's the Absolute Boss. Big shot. Don't delete me, please. I've got a rare treasure here. Take a look. It'll be insanely useful for you. Fatty's the Absolute Boss. Attached image. Chunze zoomed in on the picture. It looked like an animal hide. Most of the pelt was blank, with only crudely drawn stick figure houses scribbled in the center, dotted with tiny red marks scattered across them. Huh? What even is this? Before Zeke could puzzle it out, Fatty sent the item's system description straight over. Item name, Mysterious Beast Hide Rank. Special item description, an ancient leftover beast hide. While in your possession, it delivers real-time surveillance of all activity within a 1-kilometer radius. Hiss, Zeke gasped out loud when he read the stats. Damn, that's an absolute game-changer. Those little house sketches were other survivors' fortresses, and the red dots marked living people. With this thing, he'd basically have an overhead god's-eye view of the entire surrounding area. Right then, another message popped up from Fatty. Fatty's the absolute boss. Big shot Li Yunlong. I got this from my innate talent skill. Truth be told, mine's an A-rank talent, but it can only be used once every 7 days. I'd never trade it away unless I was truly desperate. Fatty's the absolute boss. It only detects living creatures, but with it, no scheming survivor can sneak up on you. It's a divine artifact, no two ways about it. Magic City Li Yunlong. What do you want in exchange? Fatty's the absolute boss. Weapons, powerful melee weapons. Itachi, a Tang Dao, anything with an official system tier tag. Does this guy think I'm Doraemon with a magic pocket? Zeke frowned and kept the conversation going. Magic City Li Yunlong. You're picking and choosing like you're ordering food off a menu. Where am I supposed to get tiered Tang Daos or Tachis? Would an F-rank fire axe from the exchange counter work? Fatty's the absolute boss. Big shot, I'll be straight with you. My shelter's a portable toilet stall. The only openings to hit zombies are 2 tiny air vents top and bottom. I can't reach anything outside that range. Fire axes are too short and clunky to use properly. I need a long blade. Zeke burst out laughing at that explanation. Buddy, I can't tell if your luck's terrible or just weird. Though honestly, if you're ruthless enough, spawning in a toilet stall shelter might at least keep you from starving to death. On Fatty's end, no reply had come through for ages, and he paced frantically back and forth inside his toilet stall shelter. He'd exhausted every other option. The regional chat only let users post 10 messages a day, all wasted earlier when he'd been bragging. The trading post hadn't yielded a single lead either. He'd latched onto Zeke as his last lifeline, and he wasn't about to let that chance slip away. Fatty's the absolute boss. Big shot. Do you have one or not? My shelter's structural durability's down to barely 20 more points. If I wait any longer, I'm dead meat. Zeke didn't own any cold long blades offhand, but he had plenty of coins. He pulled up the trading post and searched for Tachis and Tangdaos with no tier restrictions. Search results loaded instantly, only to disappoint him completely. No trade listings matching your search criteria found. Not a single regular blade, let alone tiered ones. Made sense. If anyone had posted them up for trade, Fatty would have messaged someone else long before tracking him down. Magic City Li Yunlong. I don't have one right now, but I can put out a buy request. If you trust me, I'll trade you a repair kit first, and hand over the blade once I track one down. A dozen seconds passed before a reply arrived. Fatty's the absolute boss. It's my only option right now. Please don't scam me, big shot. If you cheat me, all I've got left in this stall is garbage. I'll get eaten by zombies by tomorrow if I don't hold out till dawn. Ding. Fatty's the absolute boss sent a trade request. Zeke blinked and tapped accept, stunned to see Fatty had straight up placed the mysterious beast hide into the trade slot. Whoa, you're really putting all your chips on the table. Aren't you scared I'll swindle this priceless hide for 100 survival coins? Zeke stared at the beast hide in the trade window, genuinely shocked by Fatty's bold leap of faith. That said, he wasn't the type to take advantage of someone's desperation. He exchanged one repair kit and added a chicken drumstick plus a bottle of water to the trade slot, touched by the blind trust the other survivor had shown him. He confirmed the trade. The repair kit, drumstick and water vanished from his inventory, replaced by an aged rolled beast hide. Hell yeah, I scored the treasure. Zeke unrolled the hide excitedly and examined it closely. The map view had shifted, centering on a simple cylindrical shape marked with a bright red 5-pointed star. That's my current position, no doubt. Zeke walked around his watchtower, and sure enough, the red star shifted to mirror his movements. Even better, as he stepped to the tower's edge, rough sketches of nearby buildings populated the map's visible radius. Tiny red and yellow dots flickered into view one after another. Red dots for human survivors. Yellow must be zombies. Now that he understood its functions, Zeke cherished the beast hide even more. With this radar-like artifact, his odds of surviving this death-ridden doomsday had skyrocketed. Perfect. Everything's falling my way one step at a time. Zeke sighed in relief again. If he'd spawned anywhere but this watchtower fortress, he'd have been torn apart by zombies long ago. He never would have gotten his hands on a treasure like this. He clenched his fist, feeling as if his fate was slowly rewriting itself for the better. Now that he possessed the beast hide, he didn't forget his promise to Fatty. He immediately posted a buy listing on the trading post. Wanted, long-bladed weapons. Offering 100 survival coins for Tachis, Tang Daos, or any long melee blades. Message privately if you own tier-tagged weapons. Price negotiable. His listing sank without a trace. For a full 30 minutes, not a single reply or trade request rolled in. Most survivors are probably locked in brutal fights with zombies at this hour. Anyone lucky enough to own a blade like this won't want to part with it easily. Chun-Zik sighed and glanced toward the distant horizon. He hadn't noticed the sky lightening with pale dawn streaks, soft threads of sunlight seeping over the doomsday land trapped in endless darkness for so long. Ugh, ugh. Wave after wave of zombie howls echoed strangely against the breaking dawn. Why were these creatures suddenly going berserk? Chun-Zik furrowed his brow. What unfolded next left his jaw hanging open. The second sunlight touched the zombies. Thick white smoke billowed off their bodies, their flesh and tissue rapidly disintegrating. Within mere heartbeats, every single zombie dissolved into wispy smoke and vanished entirely. Even the ones he'd slain beneath the watchtower were gone without a trace, leaving only faint glowing orbs hovering where their bodies had fallen. Chun-Zik swallowed hard. All his earlier smugness melted away, replaced by profound awe for this alien world. What terrifying force could erase these man-eating monsters in an instant? He instinctively patted his pocket, and his fingers closed around his yellowed, peeling Huawei smartphone. No cellular signal, of course. The clock read exactly 6 a.m. He hadn't expected this world to run on the same daily cycle as Earth. Unfolding the beast hide, he saw the dense cluster of yellow zombie dots across the map had vanished completely without warning. Just like the system voice said, hostile monsters only spawn after dark. Satisfied the immediate threat was gone, Chun-Zik resolved to step outside his watchtower. Time to collect my loot. Screech, the heavy iron gate creaked open. Chun-Zik stepped forward, planting his feet on the foreign soil of this new world for the very first time. The gate's shrill creak must have carried far. As soon as he exited the tower, he felt multiple pairs of eyes lock onto him. Chun-Zik scanned the surroundings and spotted a family of 3 staring straight at him from a nearby building. The same household he'd warned the night before. When the man caught Chun-Zik's gaze, his face softened with gratitude, and he called out, "Brother, thank you so much for last night. Without your heads up, my whole family wouldn't have survived till morning." MHM. Chun-Zik only nodded in acknowledgement of his thanks. Human nature was unpredictable, and he had no desire to grow close to this family. Who could guarantee they wouldn't turn on him when push came to shove? The man picked up on Chun-Zik's wariness and said nothing more, pulling his wife and child back inside their shelter. "Honey, why's that Chun-Zik act so cold?" the woman asked, a flicker of disappointment crossing her face. They'd reached out to thank him with ulterior motives. Chun-Zik owned a gun. If they managed to form an alliance with such a powerful survivor, their survival chances would soar. The man shook his head helplessly. "Let it go. It's obvious he wants nothing to do with us, so we'll leave him alone. Everyone's just looking out for themselves in this end times. We only need to worry about staying alive." The woman lingered at the window staring out for ages before sighing and falling silent. Chun-Zik paid no mind to the family's thoughts. All his focus rested on the glowing loot orbs scattered across the ground. Let's see what good stuff the zombies dropped. He strode over to the orb closest to his watchtower, knelt down, and touched the soft, glowing sphere. Instantly, a line of text materialized in his mind. F-rank weapon, Tang Dao item description, a well-crafted blade. If you possess even basic martial arts training, it's more than enough to slay ordinary monsters. A weapon. He pulled a weapon on his first try. Thrilled, Chun-Zik plunged his hand into the orb and wrapped his fingers firmly around the hilt. The moment his palm closed around the handle, an icy chill raced up his arm, spreading through his whole body like an electric current. He slowly drew the Tang Dao free, its blade shimmering with a faint cold glint, the edge razor-sharp. Let's test what makes this system-forged blade different from regular ones. Chun-Zik gripped the hilt with both hands and swung hard at a boulder the size of a human head beside him. Clang! A sharp metallic ring echoed, sparks flying everywhere. A deep gash sliced straight through the rock, stone shards spraying 7 or 8 meters outwards. He inspected the blade's edge. Aside from a few flecks of stone dust, there wasn't a single nick or scratch. Holy hell, this thing's incredible. Chun-Zik couldn't help exclaiming. This F-rank Tang Dao was far sharper than he'd imagined. Back on Earth, a blade of this quality would be incredibly rare, something an ordinary person like him could never get their hands on. He stroked the polished blade, growing fonder of it by the second. But the memory of his promise to Fatty pulled him back, leaving him conflicted. He hated the thought of trading away such a flawless blade. Never mind, I'll check the rest of the orbs first. Who knows? I might pull another weapon. Chunzik felt like he'd been transported back to his college years grinding online games. Touching each glowing orb felt identical to opening dungeon treasure chests, the rush of unknown possibility flooding his mind, imagining legendary god-tier weapons or rare crafting materials waiting inside. 4 orbs remained, and he looted all of them in one go. F-Rank Planting Crate Item Description. Supports cultivation of all plants below F-Rank, cutting growth cycles in half by 50%. F-Rank Long Spear Item Description. King of all melee weapons. Longer reach equals greater advantage. Forged from special metal, it deals devastating damage to monsters of the same tier. 2 more stat-bearing items dropped. The planting crate was square, roughly the size of a household oven, filled with dark, odorous soil inside. The F-Rank long spear glinted silver all over and weighed quite a bit. Chunzik struggled to lift it. Since he'd already taken a liking to the Tang Dao, he decided to trade the spear to Fatty. Over on Fatty's side, dawn had finally broken. He pressed his eye to the crack in his toilet stall door, watching the outside world nervously. Suddenly, the core of his fortress warmed slightly, a message from Magic City Li Yunlong. He opened it instantly. Magic City Li Yunlong. Buddy, I found your weapon. A trade request popped up right after the message. Fatty tapped accept in a rush, and a silver long spear materialized in his inventory. Fatty's the absolute boss. Holy crap, big shot, you actually got one for me. Magic City Li Yunlong. Didn't buy it. Dropped from a zombie. Chunzik thought Fatty was decent enough, so he didn't hide the fact that zombies could drop loot. Fatty's the absolute boss. What? Zombies can drop gear too? That's totally insane. Fatty felt as if he'd missed out on 100 million fortune. If he'd gotten this long gun sooner, he might have looted far more valuable treasures. But then he thought again. Without the powerful survivor's help, he wouldn't have survived last night, let alone slain zombies to drop gear. Fatty bowed repeatedly. Thank you, big shot. Thank you so much. With the trade finished, Chunzei's mind was free of lingering worries. As for the remaining 2 drops, they were fairly ordinary. 1 pack of emergency rations contains 5 compressed ration bars, 3 liters of drinking water, 5 cigarettes, 1 chocolate bar, 2 instant drink sachets. Item description. Don't overthink it. Just basic survival food, but enough to keep you going for several days. 7 beast traps. Item description. Place them in inconspicuous spots, and they might bring you some unexpected pleasant surprises. So even F-tier zombies can drop common grade supplies, Chunzei muttered to himself. He walked straight toward the last floating light orb, the only one glowing cyan. Hope this one doesn't disappoint me. He reached into the glow as he spoke, and item data flooded his mind instantly. E-tier water purifier. Item description. Converts regular water into E-tier purified water. Drinking 1 liter per day permanently raises all 3 core stats by 1 point. Holy hell, a top-tier drop. Chunzei blurted out in excitement. A device that steadily boosts strength, agility, and constitution. Its value was every bit equal to his Type 38 rifle. Bullets would run out eventually, but permanent stat increases were an endless, lifelong gain. Ha. Overjoyed, Chunzei clutched the purifier and turned to head back to his blockhouse, eager to test this precious item right away. Just then, a familiar female voice called out from behind him. Mr. Chun, wait a moment. Chunzei spun around to see Wang Yalan. She looked utterly worn out and disheveled. Her once delicate face was etched with exhaustion, her hair matted and loose over her shoulders, and her dress stained black with zombie blood, its original color completely unrecognizable. She'd fought zombies nonstop all night, and only now had dragged her exhausted body outside upon hearing Chunzei's voice. Noticing his lingering gaze, she hastily wiped grime off her cheeks with her arm and spoke again. Mr. Chun, thank you for saving me last night. No need to thank me. We had a deal beforehand, fish. Chunzei waved her off casually, ready to leave. His whole mind was fixed on the purifier. He had no spare time to chat with Wang Yalan. Seeing him about to walk away, Wang Yalan panicked instantly. Her heart raced, and she unconsciously jogged a few steps forward. Her lips parted to speak, yet an invisible force froze her mid-motion as if trapped by a binding spell. She stood rigid, not daring to shift an inch. The reason was plain to see. Chunzei had firmly raised his Type 38 rifle, its muzzle like a bottomless black void pointed cold and straight at her. Chunzei said nothing, only stared at her coldly, waiting for her explanation. And Mr. Chun, I mean no harm. I just wanted to send you a friend request. A friend request? Chunze saw right through her ploy. She wanted to keep relying on his protection. But things were different now. He owned survival coins and could buy food freely from the trade market. There was no need to waste precious ammunition trading for meals anymore. Give me one reason I shouldn't turn you down. Wang Yalan bit her lip, her mind racing at top speed. In this doomsday, a woman's only bargaining chip might well be her body, yet her fierce pride stopped her from selling herself so easily. After a brief pause, she drew a deep breath and spoke. Mr. Chun, I have a method to help you stockpile massive amounts of supplies in a short time. Would you be willing to hear me out? Massive supplies, fast? Chunze's brows furrowed slightly. Could this woman have obtained some overpowered treasure? Or was her shelter's talent a high tier? That didn't add up. She'd nearly died yesterday. Unable to figure it out, he asked directly, Speak. What's this method? Relieved when Chunze slowly lowered the rifle, Wang Yalan stepped a little closer and lowered her voice to a tone only the two of them could hear. Mr. Chun, have you ever thought about the abandoned shelters that got breached? Their walls and doors are wrecked, but all the supplies inside are still there. Her words struck him like a lightning bolt of realization. She was right. Though broken shelters lost all defensive capabilities, their stored goods hadn't been looted or rotted away yet. If he ventured out to scavenge each abandoned site one by one, it would be an unbeatable shortcut to hoarding resources fast. Chunze studied the woman before him anew. Not only could she pick up a weapon and fight zombies, she was sharp and observant, far more capable than the average survivor. He couldn't help but gain a new measure of respect for Wang Yalan. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't have the strength to retrieve those supplies on my own. A flicker of helplessness flashed in her eyes as she pressed her lips together. Mr. Chun, you saw how Yang Wei is. He's nothing but a bully who only dares pick fights with me at home. She paused, her fists clenched tight. If I want to survive this apocalypse, I can only rely on myself. Chunze fully grasped her meaning. She couldn't count on her useless husband, so she'd set her sights on him instead. He let out a quiet scoff and looked her over from head to toe again. Wang Yalan was haggard, covered in scrapes and zombie gore from fighting all night, yet her natural beauty still shone through. She was tall and graceful, her fine facial features striking even smudged with dirt. Chunze swallowed hard and coughed to mask his awkwardness. Cut to the chase. What exactly do you want from me? Wang Yalan had felt his intense, predatory stare just now. She glanced at the towering blockhouse behind him and was about to reply when Chunze cut her off. Don't get any ideas about moving into my blockhouse. The words died on her tongue, yet she wasn't surprised. From how Chunze had shot Gui Changzheng and his gang in broad daylight, she knew he was extremely cautious. It would have been suspicious if he'd invited her in just because she was attractive. Strangely enough, this only made her trust him more. Mr. Chun, you saved my life. I wouldn't dare ask for anything extravagant. Chunze was genuinely taken aback by her reply. A plan formed in his mind. The blockhouse was his lifeline in this ruined world. He couldn't risk letting a stranger inside. But sharing some scavenged supplies with her was acceptable. Here's the deal. You came up with this idea, so if we collect supplies together, I'll split a portion of the haul with you afterward. Wang Yalan nodded, and Chunze went on. Go get ready. We're leaving shortly. Scavenging outside required preparation, and he couldn't rest easy until he stowed his precious E-tier purifiers safely inside the blockhouse. He slammed the iron gate shut with a clang and climbed straight to the third floor. The purifier resembled a household water dispenser, with water storage tanks top and bottom and multicolored filter layers sandwiched in the middle. This looks no different from a regular earth filter. Can it really boost my stats? Chunze muttered, pouring all 3 liters of emergency ration water into the machine. A soft low hum rumbled from the purifier, and the multicolored filters slowly spun, emitting a faint glow. Chunze stared unblinkingly, afraid to miss a single crucial detail. About a minute later, drip, drip, water finally trickled from the spout, clear droplets falling one after another to pool in the container beneath, ringing out crisply. Chunze lifted the vessel to examine it. The water was crystal clear, and when he brought it close to his nose, he swore he caught a faint, delicate floral scent, though that might have just been his imagination. Let's test what this stuff does. Chunze tilted the container back and drank every drop in one gulp. In an instant, a strange, gentle warmth spread through his entire body, relaxing every pore until it felt as if every cell inside him was cheering with joy. Even the bone-deep weariness from last night's endless zombie hunt faded away a little. He pulled up his stat panel. Survivor. Chunze level, 1 strength. 8 slowly increasing. Agility, 7 slowly increasing. Constitution, 8 slowly increasing. Active talents. None evaluation. You found your reliable lifeline for surviving this world. Upgrade requirement. All 3 core stats reach 20 plus 1 beast core of any attribute. Ha ha ha. The system wasn't lying to me. His stats hadn't jumped immediately, but the slowly increasing label was undeniable proof of the purifier's effect. At this drip rate, the purifier makes at least 5 liters of purified water a day. I only need 1 liter for myself, leaving 4 liters extra to spare. Chunzhe licked his lips, already picturing the frenzy of buyers lining up for E-tier stat-boosting water. Stat-granting items were extremely rare at this stage, let alone permanent E-tier stat boosters. This resource was strategically priceless. Opening the exchange shop, Chunzhe bought 20 liters of extra drinking water and poured all of it into the purifier. He couldn't afford for the machine to run dry. Every minute of downtime meant lost stat gains. After a moment's thought, he gritted his teeth and purchased 2 F-tier backpacks. Scavenging required storage space. After all, 2 backpacks meant he could haul twice as much loot back in one trip. After spree shopping, he only had 260 survival coins left. Damn, I haven't even stepped foot outside yet, and I've blown 500 coins. Chunzhe felt like he'd fallen for a capitalist trap. He had no idea how much loot he'd gather out there, yet he'd already burned through a fortune. The F-tier backpacks looked identical to Delta GA combat packs, boasting 20 storage slots each. He stowed his Tang Dao sword and Type 38 rifle inside. They only took up 2 slots combined, making the bags well worth the cost. If he could fill both packs full of supplies on this trip, he'd turn a hefty profit. He locked the massive iron gate tight from the outside, still uneasy, then laid all 5 beast traps he'd collected around the entrance. If any fool tried breaking into his blockhouse while he was gone, the traps would deliver a nasty surprise. Chunzhe clapped dust off his hands and headed toward Wang Yalan's shelter. I told you, you are not going out with that, Chunzhe. Long before he reached the house, Chunzhe heard Yang Wei's roaring yell echoing from inside. Peering through the window, he saw Yang Wei jabbing a finger straight at Wang Yalan, spittle flying everywhere, nothing like the cowering mess he'd been the night before. Wang Yalan had changed into fresh clothes and washed the grime from her face. She looked neat and clean, with the soft bearing of a college girl. She glanced sideways at him, her gaze calm, even tinged with quiet contempt. Yang Wei, we're done. We finished the second you pushed me into the zombie horde last night. Panic flashed across Yang Wei's face for a split second, quickly replaced by a cold sneer. Done? Heh, think carefully about this. He tugged the fortress core hanging around his neck. Don't forget I'm the registered owner of this shelter. If I want to, I can kick you out to the zombies at any moment. Wang Yalan turned to face him, her eyes ice cold. She'd anticipated this threat all along, which was why she'd rushed to seek Chunzhe out. She needed a new safe haven fast. She didn't dare hope to move into the blockhouse, but Chunzhe had killed another survivor in daylight that very afternoon, and the man's body still lay in a pool of blood not far away. If she claimed that dead survivor's fortress core, she'd own a shelter of her own, free forever from Yang Wei's threats. Note, fortress cores and their shelters exist as a linked pair. If either is destroyed, both break down into raw materials. If a survivor dies unexpectedly, their unclaimed fortress core drops on the ground for other survivors to pick up and bond with, granting full control over the matching shelter. Seeing Wang Yalan fall silent, Yang Wei thought he had her trapped, a smug, arrogant grin spreading across his face, his eyes full of provocation. What? Got nothing to say? Do as you're told, or I'll evict you to fend for yourself in this wasteland. He reached out to grab her arm as he rambled on, but Wang Yalan flinched away, as if electrocuted the second his skin nearly touched hers. Disgust clouded her features as she stared coldly at him. Don't touch me. Do you really think this shelter is enough to threaten me? I can survive perfectly well without it. Humph, don't think I don't see your little scheme. Yang Wei crossed his arms over his chest, looking self-assured. You're just hoping to latch onto Chunzhe and move into his blockhouse. Let me make this clear, don't get your hopes up. If Chunzhe dares take you in, I'll broadcast the whole thing to every survivor. Everyone will shun him, and we'll see how well he hides in that little bunker of his then. A sharp metallic click cut through his rant mid-sentence. Both turned toward the window to spot a figure outside, holding a Type 38 rifle and staring coldly into the room. When they recognized who it was, goosebumps covered Yang Wei's body instantly, all color draining completely from his face. It was Chunzhe. His legs trembled uncontrollably. The loudmouth who'd just been hurling threats could not utter a single word, his mouth hanging open as if glued shut. Yang Wei, you had so much to say earlier. Keep talking. Chunzhe's gaze was frigid. He vaulted through the broken window and pressed the rifle's barrel hard against Yang Wei's forehead. Yang Wei shook like a leaf in a storm, big beads of sweat pouring down his forehead. Sir, don't shoot. I've got a loose tongue. I was spouting nonsense. Even if you gave me 10 guts, I'd never dare cross you. Sir, if you want my wife, just take her. I swear I'll never run my mouth again. Spare my life, please. Chunze narrowed his eyes, his finger instinctively tensing on the trigger. He would not tolerate anyone plotting against his blockhouse. He'd seen too much bloodshed over the past day, slaughtering dozens of zombies overnight. Killing another human barely stirred any emotion in him now. Still, executing a man merely for empty threats felt unreasonable. Slowly, he relaxed his finger off the trigger. Seeing this reprieve, Yang Wei threw himself to the floor and kowtowed repeatedly, loud thuds echoing through the room. He could tell the man before him meant to spare his life. Thank you for sparing me, sir. I know I was wrong. I'll never run my mouth again. Thank you, thank you. Wang Yalan beside him also breathed a quiet sigh of relief. As much as she wanted nothing more to do with Yang Wei, she couldn't bear watching him die right in front of her eyes. You're spared execution, but punishment cannot be avoided. Hand over your fortress core. Chen Zhe's voice dropped low, staring down at Yang Wei from above. Hand over my core? But how will I survive then? Yang Wei's sentence died in his throat when he met Chen Zhe's murderous, icy glare. He knew if he refused, the mercy he'd just received would vanish in an instant. Gritting his teeth, Yang Wei's shaking hands lifted the fortress core from around his neck. A shelter was the only way to survive the nightly zombie sieges in this apocalypse. Without his core, he had no way to last through tonight's attack. Yet if he refused to hand it over, this cold-blooded killer would slay him without hesitation. Here, take it. Fear overpowered all rational thought, and he held the cold core out to Chen Zhe. Despair etched deep in his eyes. Chen Zhe took it. The artifact felt icy against his palm, its data flooding straight into his mind. Talent tier, E-tier effect, reduces all incoming monster damage by 5 when struck. A talent of this low grade was not worth absorbing. His own innate talent was SSS tier, so he only planned to consume talents ranked S or higher in the future. With a mere thought, Chen Zhe expelled Yang Wei from the house. One moment Yang Wei was inside, and the next his vision blurred, depositing him outside the threshold. Not daring to linger, he didn't spare Chen Zhe or Wang Yalan a single glance, scrambling away toward the distance in a complete fluster. Terrified Chen Zhe might change his mind and chase him down to kill him. I've no use for this thing. It's yours. Chen Zhe tossed it casually. The translucent fortress heart arced through the air and landed neatly in Wang Yalan's palms. She caught it instinctively, staring at the faintly glowing gem in her hands, her eyes brimming with gratitude. Only moments earlier, Yang Wei had threatened to cast her out to be eaten by zombies. Everything was different now. This shelter belonged entirely to her, even though it had been her home all along. Mr. Chun, you've done so much for me. I don't know how I can ever repay you. When a woman spoke words like these, they were easy to misinterpret, and Chen Zhe was no exception. His heart stirred, restlessness flaring inside him. Now that my company folded, it's been years since I've been with a woman. Maybe I ought to take this married woman for myself. An old saying held true. Comfort stirs carnal desire. Back on Earth, Chen Zhe had hounded by debt collectors, scrambling endlessly to scrape by with no bandwidth for such thoughts. But trapped in this apocalypse, his mind wandered to such temptations. Chen Zhe's unwavering intense gaze made Wang Yalan uneasy. She ducked her head on impulse to hide her blushing cheeks. Silence stretched on, and her anxiety mounted. She stole quick glances at him, trying to read what lay behind his expression. What if he asked for something improper? Should I agree? Would that make me look cheap? But this is the end of the world. Why overthink it? He saved my life twice. What else do I have to give him in return? A war raged in her mind, and she'd already resolved she might yield if he made an inappropriate advance. Let's head out. Chen Zhe spoke abruptly, catching Wang Yalan completely off guard. Yes, of course. She replied flustered, crimson still staining her cheeks, relieved he hadn't made the unsavory request she'd feared. A faint twinge of regret lingered only within her own heart. When they stepped outside, Yang Wei was long gone. The corpse Chen Zhe had shot lay sprawled by the roadside, swarmed by buzzing insects. Mr. Chun, that man must have had a fortress heart too. Wang Yalan reminded him. Chen Zhe blinked, then realized she was right. Right, I'd completely forgotten about him. He strode forward, tugged open the dead man's shirt, revealing another translucent crystal nestled against his chest. He wrenched the gem free, and information about its talent flooded straight into his mind. Talent rank, S. Tycoon's armor. Your fortress gains extra maximum durability for every point of damage it absorbs. Every 100 damage taken raises max durability by 20 points. Holy hell! Chunzhe swore under his breath. This talent was ridiculously powerful, a top-tier growth ability. His fortress could grow endlessly so long as he had enough survival coins. He wouldn't even need to kill zombies. He could just let the structure take hits to boost its durability cap indefinitely. He'd never imagined some random thug he'd shot dead would possess an S-rank elite talent. What's wrong, Mr. Chen? Wang Yalan jumped at his exclamation, fearing something terrible had happened. Chunzhe struggled to contain his excitement, yet dared not reveal too much about his own abilities, so he kept his reply brief. Nothing serious. I'm just surprised how good this man's talent turned out to be. As he spoke, he activated his Devour skill. The fortress heart vanished from his grasp in an instant, and his watchtower gained its first practical talent, Tycoon's Armor. I see. Wang Yalan nodded, choosing not to press him further. Chunzhe noted her restraint. This young married woman was not only beautiful, but thoughtful and tactful, refusing to pester him with endless questions. His fondness for her deepened. Come on. From the watchtower earlier, I spotted a cluster of shelters overrun by zombies. We'll head that way. Chunzhe pointed ahead and walked off first. Wang Yalan hurried to follow, keeping a careful distance, close enough to offer mutual aid, far enough not to hinder one another's movements. They'd barely walked a few minutes when the first ruined shelter came into view. Several wispy, glowing orbs hovered silently above the wreckage. What stunned them most was the state of the building. It looked as though a massive industrial shredder had crushed it entirely. Every steel bar and concrete slab had been ground into thumb-sized fragments. A terrifying, otherworldly force had disassembled the structure at a fundamental, rule-based level, something zombies could never accomplish. This must be what happens when a shelter's durability hits zero, Chunzhe surmised. Only the system could wield such power. Wang Yalan clapped a hand over her mouth, staring in horror at the wreckage, overcome with dread. If Chunzhe hadn't intervened last night, would her own home have ended up like this pile of rubble? Chunzhe's heart grew heavy watching her terrified face. Everything had gone far too smoothly yesterday, leaving him blind to how brutal this world truly was. The sight before him was a cold bucket of water, jolting him awake to reality. The apocalypse was far deadlier than he'd imagined. He needed to grow stronger, fast. Chunzhe drew a deep breath, suppressing his unease, and walked toward the glowing orbs. He reached out and touched the first one, triggering a system notification. Congratulations. Obtained 20 units of stone. Detected F-rank backpack. Claim materials? Yes. 20 units of stone material materialized inside his pack. Fortunately, stackable resources only occupied a single inventory slot. Upgrading a fortress required 100 units each of stone, lumber, and steel. He'd been worrying where to source these materials. Zombies never dropped them, but it turned out destroyed player shelters were the loot source. Unsurprisingly, the remaining 2 orbs held the other 2 vital resources, 8 units of lumber and 12 units of steel. Beyond the crafting materials, the shelter's original furniture remained mostly intact. Chunzhe's watchtower was woefully bare, no clothes, no cookware, not even a bed to sleep in. This haul was a godsend. Queen-size spring mattress, take it. Rice, flour, oil and grain supplies, take them all. Wait a minute, there are several packs of premium cigarettes in this fridge? Grab them too. Chunzhe felt as though he'd stumbled on buried treasure, eagerly stowing every supply away. His F-rank backpack held 20 slots. The mattress took up 4 slots, and most other items only 1 each. Yet the sheer variety quickly filled the bag to bursting. I've stuffed so much inside, and there's 0 extra weight. The system's inventory items really are incredible, Chunzhe marveled. They were about to leave and continue scavenging when Wang Yalan tugged at his sleeve. Chunzhe, look over there. Chunzhe followed her gaze and saw 3 men stepping out of a nearby house, jogging straight toward them. Who the hell are you? Who said you could take our stuff? The lead man skidded to a halt right in front of them, jabbing a finger in Chunzhe's face as he shouted. Exactly. This is our shelter. Even if zombies broke through it, any materials it drops belong to us. A tall, lanky man behind him seconded the accusation, gripping a 1-meter steel rebar in his hand. The 3 advanced aggressively, acting as if they held every right to the wreckage. But Chunzhe had spotted 3 corpses when he'd gathered supplies earlier. They were clearly not the original surviving owners of this shelter. To his surprise, Wang Yalan did not cower behind him like most frightened women would. Instead, she silently drew her baseball bat, ready to fight at a moment's notice. Mr. Chun, what do we do? She asked. Chunzhe patted her back gently to calm her. then fixed a cold smirk on the three strangers. This shelter's yours? Then who were the three dead bodies we found inside? Caught in their lie, the men showed no shame. Their expressions turned vicious instead. The burly ringleader gripped a glinting kitchen cleaver, licking his lips. I say this place is ours, so it's ours. This is the apocalypse. Hand over all the loot you grabbed, or I'll chop you to mincemeat, got it? As he finished speaking, another man behind him chimed in. Brother Lay, why waste words? This kid's unarmed, no weapon at all. Kill him, and all his supplies are ours. See that backpack he's wearing? I saw one at the exchange stall. It's F-Rank, costs 200 survival coins, worth more than a full night of zombie slaying. Chunze finally understood why the three acted so bold. They'd seen his empty hands and assumed he carried no weapons. Fools, they had no idea his Type 38 rifle and F-Rank Tang Dao were both tucked safely in his backpack, ready to be drawn at any time. A cold smile tugged at Chunze's lips. So you three aren't planning to let me walk away today? Idiot, you're scared now, huh? Ha ha. Leave the bag and the woman, then get lost. The lanky man missed the sarcasm in Chunze's tone entirely, mistaking it for cowardice. He marched forward swinging his steel rebar, utterly dismissive of Chunze. He reached out to snatch Wang Yalan's backpack, and that was when Chunze struck. A cold Type 38 rifle materialized in his hands out of nowhere, its dark barrel, like an endless abyss, aimed straight at the lanky man. The lanky man froze instantly, his outstretched hand suspended mid-air. His smug grin froze solid, replaced by sheer, unbridled terror. His eyes bulged, locked onto the gun muzzle, waiting for a fatal bullet to tear out at any second. How do you have a gun? His voice shook, legs trembling uncontrollably. It was no wonder he panicked. Firearms were heavily restricted in Longhua. Ordinary civilians could never possess one. He'd never imagined this young man would pull out a real functional rifle. Now you're scared? Too bad, it's already too late. Chunze wasted no words and pulled the trigger. Bang! A deafening gunshot exploded across the ruins like a thunderclap. A flash of fire erupted from the barrel. The bullet, carrying brutal kinetic force, slammed into the lanky man's skull in an instant, spraying blood everywhere. He didn't even let out a full scream before collapsing backward like a heavy sack of sand, crashing onto the rubble-strewn ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. His eyes remained wide open, terror etched permanently on his face, as if he could never accept he'd been shot dead. Brother Lay and the shorter man were paralyzed with shock, staring blankly at their comrade's corpse as if their souls had been ripped from their bodies by the sudden killing. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Time seemed to stand still. Even Brother Lay, a thug who'd survived every scrap of society pre-apocalypse and feared nothing, was seized by crippling terror. His mouth hung open, yet his throat went dry, robbing him of speech. The shorter man broke first. He dropped to his knees with a heavy thud, scrambling forward toward Chunze while sobbing and begging. Big brother, spare me. I'll never do this again. I'll work myself to the bone for you, anything. Chunze had no intention of letting either of them live. His rule was simple. Empty threats and hostile glares he could overlook, but anyone who took physical action to harm him deserved death, without mercy. In the apocalypse, human hearts were unpredictable. Kindness to enemies meant cruelty to yourself. Chunze raised the rifle once more and fired. The kneeling short man took the bullet without a whimper and fell backward. Watching two allies die right before his eyes, Brother Lay's pupils constricted sharply. Driven to desperate rage, he hefted his cleaver and charged Chunze head-on. I'll kill you. They stood barely a meter apart, and the Type 38 could not fire continuously. Chunze had only just chambered another round when Brother Lay closed the distance. Eyes bloodshot and face contorted into a beastly snarl. Brother Lay raised the cleaver high overhead, swinging it down at Chunze's skull with suicidal ferocity. Chunze had no time to dodge. He barely lifted the rifle's wooden stock to block the blow. At the split second before impact, someone shoved him hard aside, Wang Yalan. She'd thrown all her strength into pushing Chunze out of harm's way, and the gleaming cleaver sank deep into her shoulder instead. Ah! A shrill scream tore from her throat. She crumpled to the ground, thick blood gushing from her wound and soaking her clothes crimson in seconds. It had all happened in a heartbeat. Chunze watched the blade bury itself in her shoulder, the bright red blood searing his vision. Betrayed by friends, abandoned by his lover, he couldn't recall the last time another person's suffering had pierced him this deeply. Rage, guilt, and fear crashed over him in a tidal wave. If Wang Yalan hadn't thrown herself between him and the blade, he would be the one wounded now. She might harbor quiet hopes of relying on him, but none of that mattered compared to her willingness to shield him with her own body. his eyes flooded with bloodshot fury, turning him into an enraged beast. "You bastard, you're dead." Chunze curled his fist and slammed it full force into Brother Lei's fat face. The burly man flew backward with a pained grunt like a broken kite. Brother Lei's large frame kept him from losing consciousness entirely. As he struggled to push himself up, another gunshot rang out. Bang! Fire flashed from the Type 38's barrel. The bullet, fueled by Chunze's unbridled wrath, slammed straight into Brother Lei's chest. Ugh! He let out a guttural cry. A primal urge to survive surged through him, and he forced himself to stagger to his feet despite the chest wound, trying to flee. Chunze's killing intent blazed hotter. He raised the rifle without hesitation. Die! Bang! 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 5 shots in quick succession, every bullet hitting its mark, until Brother Lei crumpled motionless on the ground. "Wang Yalan, are you all right?" Chunze rushed to her side, dropping to his knees and lifting her gently. Her face had turned pale, whether from fright or blood loss. I'm fine." It was clear she forced the words out, her voice weak and trembling as if every syllable drained her last ounce of strength. Chunze carefully pulled aside her shirt to examine the injury. The wound was gruesome. The cleaver had cut nearly to the bone, flesh split open as blood welled non-stop, staining every inch of fabric around the gash scarlet. His heart twisted painfully at the sight. An injury this severe would have been trivial with modern hospitals and medical staff back in their old world, but here in the apocalypse, there were no doctors or medicine to be found. Noticing his grim expression, Wang Yalan forced a faint, weak smile. "Is it really bad?" She paused, then went on. "Don't blame yourself. This is me repaying you for saving my life yesterday." A sharp spasm of pain cut her words short, her brows knitting tight as the wound's agony overwhelmed her. "Stop talking now. Save your strength." Chunze said nothing more. In that moment, he resolved he would protect this woman at all costs. He tore off his own shirt to fashion a crude bandage around her injury, then wasted no time scooping her up in his arms and sprinting back toward the watchtower. Resting against Chunze's warm chest, listening to his ragged gasps as he ran, a strange new emotion stirred inside Wang Yalan. Maybe, dying in his arms wouldn't be such a terrible way to go, Wang Yalan muttered to herself, her voice as light as a drifting feather. Before she could finish her words, her consciousness blurred away little by little. By the time Chunze returned to the bunker, Wang Yalan had fallen completely unconscious. Blood still oozed from the wound on her shoulder. The crimson liquid steadily seeped through the bandage cloth and stained Chunze's chest red. "What do I do? What do I do? This wound is far too deep. It needs stitches, or the bleeding will never stop." Chunze paced frantically back and forth inside the bunker. He had weapons, ammunition, food, and drink in abundance, yet he didn't have a single bit of medical supplies. Just then, his gaze fell on the Grade E water purifier sitting in the corner. Grade E pure water boosts all 3 core stats. It might help heal injuries too. "I've got no other options. Might as well try it." Desperation made him grasp at any straw. At the very least, the water wouldn't do her any harm, even if it didn't work miracles. The purifier had been running non-stop while he was out, collecting roughly 1 liter of filtered water. Chunze wasted no time. He filled a cup and carefully held it to Wang Yalan's lips, but she remained unconscious, unable to swallow on her own. "Wang Yalan, wake up!" He called her name repeatedly, yet she did not stir in the slightest. Left with no other choice, he took a big mouthful of Grade E pure water, pressed his lips to hers, and transferred the water to her mouth to mouth. Wang Yalan's lips were soft and moist. Having been single for a long time, Chunze couldn't help but slide his tongue into her mouth. The second he realized how inappropriate his actions were, Wang Yalan unexpectedly responded. She let out a soft whimper and slowly sucked at the Grade E pure water, though she still failed to regain consciousness. Seeing her suck reflex kick in, a flicker of hope ignited in Chunze's heart. He did not dare slack off, feeding her mouthful after mouthful of the purified water without pause. As the water flowed into her body, Chunze watched in amazement as the bleeding from her wound slowed to a stop, and a scab gradually formed over the gash. "It really works," he nearly shouted from excitement, then kept feeding her water until the last drop of Grade E pure water was gone. After that, he pulled out the large bed he'd stored earlier and gently laid Wang Yalan down on it. He then opened his system panel and posted the same message 3 times in a row across both the regional chat and trade channels, offering 260 survival coins for trauma medicine and anti-inflammatory drugs. Offering 260 survival coins for trauma medicine and anti-inflammatory drugs. offering 260 survival coins for trauma medicine and anti-inflammatory drugs. That was every single survival coin he possessed at the moment. Messages scrolled by at breakneck speed. Having all just survived their first night of the apocalypse, survivors flooded the channels with trade requests, cries for help, and idle chatter. Chunzai's by order was instantly swallowed up by the massive stream of messages. He waited for a long while, but received no replies. Fortunately, posts on the trade channel remained permanently visible. Anyone searching for relevant keywords would eventually see his offer. After finishing all this, Chunzai's own exhaustion finally crashed over him. Ever since he'd been transported to this strange world yesterday afternoon, his nerves had been stretched taut. He'd even fought off a horde of zombies through the night. Now that he'd confirmed Wang Yalan was out of immediate danger, his body and mind could no longer hold on. The second his body touched the spring mattress, an invisible weight pulled him down into a deep, dreamless sleep. In his dream, Chunzai returned to the days before his company went bankrupt. His old friends were still by his side, and his girlfriend stayed close to him. Yet for some reason, she kept scratching at his chest. "Song Qian, stop scratching me." Chunzai mumbled in his sleep and jolted awake. He glanced down. There was no girlfriend's hand at all. The strange thumping against his chest came from the fortress core vibrating. Surely it was a sign that someone had responded to his trade post from before bed. He rose to check on Wang Yalan and saw that her wound had fully scabbed over, though her face still looked pale. A huge weight lifted off his chest, and his anxiety faded away completely. He pulled up the system interface, and a 99+ unread message alert popped up in the bottom right corner. "I've got medicine, but 260 survival coins is far too low. This is the apocalypse. Medicine will only grow scarcer. I'll sell it to you for 300 survival coins. I have anti-inflammatory pills, only 2 tablets left. Are you interested? Big shot, I've got medicine. Would this work for you?" Attached picture. Chunzai opened the attached image, revealing a strip of yellow tablets wrapped in silver packaging with faint small text, "Sanwang tablets." "Are you kidding me? Sanwang tablets. I don't have constipation." Chunzai couldn't help but curse under his breath. Still, there were genuine traders among the replies. Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. "Brother, I've got trauma anti-inflammatory ointment and pills. Not sure what you need it for, but I'll sell it to you for just 50 coins. Reading this message, Chunzai felt a strange twinge of emotion. Who would be this naive, even in the apocalypse? He knew he could never act so selfless. In this ruined world, everyone looked out for themselves, eager to take advantage of any opportunity they got. People like this man were either on the brink of starvation or simply too soft-hearted for this harsh reality. He tapped the user's profile and sent a message. "Magic City Li Yunlong. Brother, you still have that medicine?" Chunzai had expected the man might be offline or take ages to reply, but a response popped up the second he hit send. Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. "I'm here, brother. I'm here." Before Chunzai could reply, the man sent several more messages in quick succession. "I've got a full box of amoxicillin, plus half a used bottle of iodophor. Would these help you?" "Brother, to be honest, I don't have a scrap of food left. My 2 kids have gone a full day without eating, and I desperately need those coins to buy supplies. If you can use the medicine, trade with me first. I'm open to haggling on price." Chunzai frowned as he read the words, spotting multiple inconsistencies in the man's story. It had only been the first day after transportation. Most survivors had chosen their own homes as shelters, so every household ought to have at least a day or 2 of food stockpiled. Moreover, if he'd survived the first zombie night, how could he not have even a handful of survival coins to buy food? Could he have picked a random fortress too? The thought made Chunzai nod, convinced his guess was likely correct. "Magic City Li Yunlong. If what you say is true, I'll buy the medicine without haggling. But I have to ask, did you also choose a random fortress spawn?" Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. "I can't thank you enough. Yeah, my house was taken by my ex-wife, so I had to pick random. My fortress is a giant durian." "A durian?" Chunzai rubbed his eyes instinctively, unable to believe what he'd just read. "Are you messing with me? How can a durian work as a shelter?" Before he could voice his confusion, the man sent a photo straight away. It was a top-down shot. A colossal durian husk sat firmly on the ground, standing as tall as a 2-story building. There was only a closable observation slit cut into its top. The husk spines were as thick as rice bowls, looking incredibly sturdy, covered in dozens of scratch marks clearly left by zombies from the previous night. "Wow, it's really a durian fortress. Magic City Li Yunlong. Brother, this durian fortress is insane." Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. "The fortress is pretty solid, honestly. When zombies attacked last night, we just hid inside. and the spine stabbed them all to death. Magic City Li Yunlong. Then why don't you have enough coins to buy food? Chun Zhe voiced his confusion. The man did not reply right away, seemingly hesitating, and sent a message several minutes later. Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. I won't lie to you, brother. The Durian Fortress is perfect in every way except its durability drains shockingly fast. Over 30 zombies attacked last night, and I spent every single coin I earned on emergency repair kits. Even so, my fortress durability still isn't full. I have no idea how we'll make it through tonight. Attached screenshot. Chun Zhe opened the image, a durability readout for the fortress, 55/100. It was clear the man hadn't lied. Satisfied, Chun Zhe resolved to complete the trade with him. He offered 50 survival coins plus a piece of over 2 gene of cured pork in exchange for the full box of amoxicillin and half bottle of iodophor. He hadn't added the extra cured pork out of blind kindness. The man had shared plenty of valuable information with him. More importantly, he struck Chun Zhe as a decent person who might prove a reliable trade partner in the future. When the trade window popped up showing the extra cured meat, the man didn't immediately accept and messaged Chun Zhe instead. Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. Brother, why'd you throw in extra food? Magic City Li Yunlong, don't worry about it. I've got plenty stored and don't need this right now. Consider it a snack for your kids. The man fell silent for a few seconds, did not press further to decline, and quietly clicked accept. Shortly after the trade finalized, the man sent another trade request. Chun Zhe had been preparing to give Wang Yalan her medicine when the new request popped up, filling him with confusion. What's this about? He clicked accept, and a golden chunk of material was transferred over unilaterally. Chun Zhe owed nothing in return, and the item appeared directly in his inventory. The moment the item materialized, a distinct scent filled the air. It smelled sharp at first. Then it bloomed into a strange, captivating sweetness that seemed to tug at the soul. Curious, Chun Zhe checked the item's description. Grade E Durian Flesh Item Description. Food produced exclusively by special fortresses. Consuming it permanently boosts all 3 core stats by 5 points. Unbelievable. Chun Zhe gasped aloud, overcome with shock and delight. He'd already thought his artillery bunker was an unbeatable spawn, yet clearly plenty of people had struck far better luck. If he could keep eating flesh like this, he'd hardly need a fortress at all. He'd grow powerful enough to crush aircraft and artillery with his bare hands. Brother, where'd you get this? Is it a unique talent of your Durian Fortress? Chun Zhe asked urgently. Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. Yep, it's a talent ability. But it only produces 1 batch of flesh every 10 days. We never go out to fight zombies, so it'll be far more useful in your hands. Only 1 batch every 10 days, so it wasn't completely overpowered, Chun Zhe thought to himself. Yet he faced a dilemma. The man had explained where the flesh came from, but asked for nothing in return. Such a precious item could not be taken for free. Should he send more food? Or hand over all his remaining 200+ survival coins? No, that would feel far too cheap a trade for something this rare. Chun Zhe knew the man fully understood the value of the durian flesh. This was likely his last trump card. At this stage of the apocalypse, posting this flesh on the trade channel would easily fetch enough supplies to feed a person for over 10 days. Note: Chun Zhe's grade E pure water only raises all stats by 1 point per day. It must have been the 2 gene of cured pork he'd given freely that made the man see him as a worthy person to invest in. Magic City Li Yunlong. Brother, this is a priceless treasure, so I won't turn it down. I've sent over my remaining survival coins and supplies. Please don't refuse them. Without waiting for a reply, Chun Zhe sent over a unilateral trade offer, 2 liters of grade E pure water and 200 survival coins. On the other end, the man stared blankly at the items Chun Zhe had sent. The 200 survival coins didn't surprise him much, but the grade E pure water stunned him. I knew I judged him right. Anyone willing to spend coins buying medicine on the first day of transportation is no ordinary survivor. Middle-aged dad with 2 kids. Thanks, brother. This was how men communicated, no overly flowery formalities. The man accepted the trade and sent a friend request. The 2 became allies. Gurgle, the tempting durian scent rumbled Chun Zhe's stomach. He glanced over at Wang Yalan lying beside him and wondered if he should share some of the flesh to speed her wound recovery. Then he hesitated. If the portion was too small to trigger the stat boost, he'd lose the rare flesh for nothing. Screw it, I'll eat it myself. Chun Zhe had always loved durian, but after his company collapsed, he'd never had spare money for such a luxury fruit. He finished the single batch of grade E durian flesh in just 2 bites. The flesh melted silkily on his tongue, far more delicious than premium Muzang King or Golden Pillow durians. Most importantly, Once it hit his stomach, a pure surge of energy coursed wildly through his body. He could feel his muscles subtly bulging, raw power building within his limbs. His vision also sharpened drastically. Chunzhe had suffered mild myopia, around 200 degrees. But the blurriness in his eyes faded away instantly, the world growing crystal clear. He opened his status panel, and his stats appeared before him. Survivor. Chunzhe level. 1 strength. 13 slowly rising. Agility. 12 slowly rising. Constitution. 13 slowly rising. Abilities. None evaluation. Your core stats surpass 89.85 of all survivors. Level up requirements. All 3 core stats reach 20, plus 1 grade E-Beast core of any type. This feeling, it's incredible. Chunzhe whispered, his voice trembling with awe. He slowly lifted his arm, staring at the defined, bulging muscle lines beneath the sunlight, filled with amazement. Simply clenching his fist summoned an unprecedented wellspring of power in his palm, as if he could crush any object in sight with minimal effort. To test his new strength, Chunzhe climbed to the 4th floor of the bunker, where his fortress's heaviest weapon sat, the Type 92 infantry howitzer. When he'd first arrived in this world yesterday, he'd tried to shift the massive artillery piece. Yet no matter how hard he strained, it hadn't budged an inch. The weapon weighed no less than 400 Jin. Back then, he'd been helpless, forced to leave it as a last line of defense, hoping he would never need to fire it. Now, standing before the Type 92 howitzer once more, Chunzhe's eyes burned with confidence. He rotated his wrists, took a deep breath, wrapped both hands firmly around the gun barrel. With a low roar, his leg muscles braced into the ground like deep-rooted trees to steady his frame. His arms surged with all his newfound strength to lift upward. The previously immobile Type 92 infantry howitzer slowly rose off the ground under Chunzhe's overwhelming power. Ha ha. This is the power that outmatches 90% of all humans. Chunzhe laughed loudly in excitement. His elation was understandable. The world record for clean and jerk stood at only 187 kilograms. While he'd lifted the artillery in a cradle carry, even professional weightlifters could never heave 400 Jin of a regularly shaped metal like this. It demanded not just raw brute strength, but supreme bodily coordination and muscle control. All things considered, being transported to this fortress survival world has turned out to be a stroke of luck for me. Back in his original world, Chunzhe's company had gone bankrupt, drowning him in crippling debt. He'd worked day and night, without a single glimmer of hope of turning his life around. Now that he'd transmigrated to this fortress survival realm, danger lurked everywhere. Yet he held the golden key to rebuild his life and rise to power. Feng Hao, Lin Yuan, don't you dare die easily. I won't rest until I've avenged myself on you too. Just then, faint footsteps echoed from the staircase. Chunzhe turned to see Wang Yalan, who'd woken up without him noticing, gripping the railing as she shuffled toward him unsteadily. She panicked the moment their eyes met. Mr. Chun, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you. I just heard noise up here, so It's fine, don't worry about it. Those two are old enemies of mine. They ruined me and left me penniless, and I'm going to make them pay with their lives in this life. Chunzhe waved his hand to reassure her and explain the whole story. By the way, how's your injury feeling? Huh? Much better. Did you bring me back here yesterday? Thank you. Wang Yalan had realized upon waking that this must be Chunzhe's blockhouse, and she could vaguely recall him taking care of her. But the thought of him forcing medicine into her mouth lip to lip made her cheeks flush hot with embarrassment. She turned her head away instinctively, unable to meet his gaze, the ambiguous memory replaying endlessly in her mind. Chunzhe had no such thoughts running through his head. He stepped over in 2 quick strides and gently unwrapped the cloth bandage around her shoulder. The gruesome gash had scabbed over nicely, and the swelling around it had faded significantly. You're healing up fast. Looks like grade E purified water really does have wound healing properties. Grade E purified water? What's that? Wang Yalan's eyes widened in pure confusion. The water I fed you yesterday, of course. Chunzhe said matter-of-factly and went on. It's extremely rare at this stage of the game. Drinking just 1 liter boosts all your stats by 1 point. Check your stats, you should see an increase. 1 liter? You mean you fed me a full liter of it? Men and women really fixate on entirely different things. Wang Yalan completely ignored the part about stat boosts. All she could think about was the liter of water passed between their lips, her blush spreading all the way to the tips of her ears. Chunzhe finally caught on and scratched his head awkwardly. You lost too much blood and passed out yesterday. I had no other choice. I hope you don't mind. I understand perfectly. Wang Yalan blurted out, her face burning bright red. She looked up and caught sight of his flustered expression, and a soft chuckle escaped her. This man never hesitated for a second when slaying zombies, bold, ruthless, and decisive. But now he was all awkward fluster over something trivial. He was quite an interesting sight. Her laughter eased her tense mood. If anyone lost out here, it's you. I'm a married woman, after all, and you ended up kissing me for nothing. Whoa, this married woman really knows how to talk. Chunze cleared his throat twice to defuse the awkward tension silently. I traded some anti-inflammatory medicine from the trade channel for you. It'll speed up your wound recovery. Remember to take it on time. As he spoke, he handed her a box of amoxicillin. Wang Yalan stared at the medicine in shock. She had no idea how many survival coins Chunze had spent to get it, but medicinal supplies were incredibly precious in this alien world. She couldn't help comparing Chunze to Yang Wei. If she'd been hurt, would that worthless husband of hers ever waste survival coins buying medicine for her? Never in a million years. Thank you so much. No need to thank me. You took that injury shielding me. Taking care of you's the least I can do. Chunze reverted back to his easygoing self, walking over to the water purifier, picking up a cup and chugging 2 big gulps. Wow, this grade E purified water is amazing, so sweet. He held the cup out to Wang Yalan after drinking. Have some more. It'll help your wound heal faster. Wang Yalan had browsed the public trade channel the day before and knew all graded items were incredibly valuable. She hesitated for a second, took the cup, but did not drink from it. Chunze didn't push her and spoke up again. You can stay in my blockhouse starting tonight. Huh. Wang Yalan had been staring down at the cup, completely stunned by his sudden offer, her mind racing with tangled thoughts. Why would he let me move in all of a sudden? I thought he hated people coveting his fortress. As safe as this shelter is, what if he tries to force me into something? She lifted her gaze slightly and caught sight of his bare upper body, sharp, defined muscles radiating wild, raw strength. He was worlds apart from her weak ex-husband Yang Wei. He's young and powerful. Living with him might not be such a bad thing after all. She swallowed nervously, pressed her lips together, and replied softly, All right, I'll do whatever you say.